Hey, welcome back to Métropole Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. It is currently the 8th of April, 2025. We have snow on the ground today. Oh, I had that's open. I was looking at a torpedo tires deck. Not meant to start there. You meant to start here. How's everyone doing? Off the top, sorry we're a bit late. I'm a bit under the weather. I lost my voice a bit this weekend, so this is probably a bad idea of a stream. It might not be as long as some other streams, but it is spoilers week and there's lots to talk about. So happy that you're able to pull up a chair. Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, Diogen. Hello, yeah. How you doing? Enjoying the snow? Daria, how you doing? You do anything cool this weekend? You been busy this weekend, or you do nothing this weekend? How you been? Did you like beat any world champs or anything cool? Did you do anything cool? Hey, Evelyn, how's it going? Hey, Jai, happy Cleaver Band Day. Jai, two things. Firstly, I forgot to ask, what is your icon from? Because when I see your icon zoomed in, it looks like a superhero or something. And then I thought it might be Moon Knight. I'm pretty sure you're Moon Knight pilled, but it's not Moon Knight. I do want to shout out Jai's thing, which I only actually touched yesterday, which is I was at home. Ian did kick up a storm. I'm really glad that you're in on that bit too, because I would have said the same thing. Jai has a YouTube channel, which he hasn't done too much on recently, but if you go to the post section, Jai's been doing this really cool thing called 82 on 82, in which whenever a new card comes out, he'll talk about it in less than 82 words. I checked. This last one for Game Dragon Pro was 81 words. As someone who struggles with brevity, I think that's pretty good. Sorry, I have to let the cat out. Hey, Nana, you want to go? Why? Oh, I don't. Bye. I think it's a great read. You can find it under the post section. It's quite nice. We'll talk about this card for sure, but this is great. Yeah, this is really nice. I wasn't getting this, but I think I might only be subscribed to Jai on the Métropole Grid, and I don't use the Métropole Grid on my phone, where I think things like this are recommended. I use my other one, so I have to subscribe on my other one. But this is quite nice. Shout out to Jai. That's really, really cool. I wonder how much the 81 word limit is just I can't spend 25 minutes writing one of these posts, or whether it's genuinely very difficult. Happy Cleaver Band Day, sad Cleaver Band Day. TMKF Netrunner. Yo, not Yeti. You wrote a comment on the last video, which, mind you, of course, if you don't know, there was a ban list that dropped yesterday. We did a whole video about it. We'll talk about this in a second. Let's just do that. That seems more reasonable. Yeah, I think you just left this comment here, which is so funny, and it got a good laugh from me. It's, yeah, Netrunner players be like, I'm just excited to res a 1 cost 4 to break barrier wild. And that is totally true. It's really funny. But I'd argue a lot of people just want to whiplash back for I want to res a 4 cost 1 to break barrier, which is also pretty wild. So I feel like we just kind of cultivated the culture in which we have to swing the other way as drastically as we can. But I do think there's a chance that when we res our 1 cost Maskarovka, and you break it for 4 with Kurapira, people are going to be like, wait, this isn't sustainable. We'll come back to that in a second once we catch up with the chat, because I think this is very interesting. I had to record this video relatively quickly, just on this weekend before my voice fell out. We got the ban list delivered to us early last week, so maybe I had some other time, but I was working on some other stuff. But there's a couple things that I don't think I addressed fully in this video that I think in hindsight, I would like to add little sections to this video to talk about, so we'll catch up on that for sure. Also, Persephone is found much more often than ever before. Yeah, somebody did well at an event with Persephone, didn't they, in the UK? Did they win districts? It was with a Persephone deck. It's actually really kind of cool. And they're using E-Grid, not Palangi, because that one doesn't work, which I think everyone's sad to learn when they do. I, for one, welcome our Glacier Overlords. Yeah, I'm pretty scared about that, I'll be honest. Hey, chat saver, how's it going? We've got a cool article of yours to read through from last week, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully launch has been good. Let's play in the new format. Which one, Eric? Turmoil? How you doing? Eric put up a podcast the other day and just started the podcast by throwing Nick under the bus so hard. I listened to the podcast. I thought it was good. For what it's worth, I don't think the audio quality is that bad. But the short of the long is, I heard, because I heard the before and after, because Nick was talking about this, or sorry, Eric was talking about this, that the last podcast recording, one of the wrong microphones was selected for, unfortunately for Nick. And so the audio was not obviously what anybody wanted it to be. And so Eric spent a lot of time fixing it and used some good tools to make it sound, more towards what you'd expect. It's really funny because I think the first sentence that comes out from Nick is probably the worst sounding one, but from there it's good. But he opens by throwing Nick under the bus and saying Nick messed up. That's why things are like this. And you just gotta say there's technical errors. You don't gotta slam Nick like that. Poor guy. But you should listen to this. I think it's quite good. I'm excited for Neon Static spoilers as well. Sorry now if I'm roasting you. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just passing the buck. I'm just passing the Oh man. Just one Cleaver turbine bag for real. Please terminate with turmoiling. We might not be turmoiling today. It might not be the longest stream, so I think we're gonna do news. I promised that I would play that HB deck that was posted like 2 weeks ago that we missed. That seems really interesting with Jinja and 49 cards, so I think we're gonna end up playing that. But there's a bunch of news to catch up on. Again, my voice is pretty bad, so I don't think I should be streaming for that much longer. I've been sick all weekend, but we'll get there. Hey, Brandon can't join today. It's the grid training a new postie at work, but I'll watch it later. Have a good stream. Thank you. Enjoy your new training. I think that's always pretty exciting. Beautiful day for Metropole. Phil, how's it going? I like the mysterious guitar on there on the track. I don't know which track it was. Hopefully you're well. Lunari, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Always such colorful takes. Hey, Dan. Lucille, doing well as well. Hello, Mr. Grid. Hello, chat. Floating, you played on the weekend too, didn't you? I think I saw your name. Under the snowy weather as it is. Ed, yeah, it's definitely April out here, that's for sure. Hola, it's Scoops O'Clock, Nacho. Today, not so much. I'm holding in hope that last Tuesday when we streamed, Nelsonville Games dropped an article like during the stream, so we're gonna refresh this at like 1 o'clock or something. I don't know if they did that intentionally or that just lined up. I think it just lined up. But today is the first day there hasn't been a new card, and it is Scoops Week, so I'm not sure what we're owed, what we're promised. But yeah, we'll get there for sure. This is such a bad time to lose your voice. I know. And I'm stressed. It's like Community Scoops Week is next week. And so I'm like already busy doing stuff. So that's why I think I'm just going to take it a bit easier today. Anytime I say that though, I don't. So like there's that. But I think I'll take it a bit easier today so we can be good for like next week. Like it's like getting sick 2-3 weeks before a big event. You can't get sick twice. Haha. My guess is that we'll see some Egg Infusion since it's a tier 0 deck. Egg Infusion rotates Daoshin. What do you mean? How could anyone have predicted the Cleaver ban? I feel like there's 1 or 2 people that put comments on old videos being like, I bet you it's not going to be banned. And like, yeah, I got banned out, which is totally fine. I'm not one to rub it in, besides into Eric Hayden. Yeah, no, I think it's fine. Everyone like has a hot take. I think if people had less hot takes, things would be less exciting. So it's fine. It's Moon Knight's brother in arms, Hunter's Moon. Oh, it was a Moon Knight thing. Hunter's Moon. So say like Jai one day Moon Knight comes out of Marvel Champions. Are you going to be like in on it? Is that all that's going to take? I know very little about Moon Knight. Oh, so it looks like it's this dude who has a moon on his head. Cool. Yeah, I know very little about Moon Knight. So as soon as that shows up in Marvel Champions, maybe it'll change. It's not that Jai has never been wrong. It's just that we do not have any proof of a time where he would have been. Hey, Kato, how's your weekend? Kato, you played some good Netrunner this weekend. Congrats. Hey, Austin, excited for the start of spoiler season. Me too. We're going to catch up on chat, and then we're going to catch up on some new stuff, and then we'll look at some articles. Mind you, a new card came out for sure. I'm doing okay, David. I'm a bit under the weather. Hopefully you're doing well. Looking forward to the ban list and new set. My local group hasn't been in its weekly meetup for a month now, as too many members just don't have the inclination to play at the moment, sadly. Connor, I think the same thing is happening in a lot of places. It's like both an awkward time for new players to get in, and for players who are pretty invested, it's an awkward time to continue to play, because obviously, like maybe some people are happy having Rashida, their last Rashida. If that's the case, I think it's going to be busy and exciting, obviously in like 2 or 3 weeks. So people rather take the time off now, and then they'll have more weekends or weeks or whatever, weeknights to dedicate to the thing. I think a lot of people are in that camp. So like, I hear you. And obviously, like this set has been delayed. So I do feel like that has just kind of felt like it's, you know, getting longer and longer. But obviously we're like it's about 2 weeks away at this point. So I'm with you there too. Like this Tuesday, I'm not going out tonight for obvious reasons. But next week, will people be coming out before the new cards? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Shout out to John from Montreal for the awesome shorts. They're really, really funny. I do quite like them a lot. Shout out to John's, mind you, his voiceover voice is really good. It's really well put together. Yeah, the shorts were funny. I'm excited for the article reading. Yeah, Safer. We'll get to that for sure. Seems like you're sounding a bit better. Tehran! Hold on, I need to open this tab. Congratulations. I'm not going to go further than that without spoiling something, because we'll be have it up to everyone to spoil themselves, but hopefully you had a good weekend. I'm here for the Wheel of Ugly. It's up, Jai. I need to give Jai a huge thanks, because Jai, like the Wheel of Ugly, we're down to 2 sections here, one of which we've kind of already done. It was almost entirely, if I'm not going to say cleanly, entirely your idea, so shout out to Jai. Shout out to Jai for sure. Calling out people is a no-no, at least in public. Oops. Nick deserved every last word. Also, no, I meant playing the ban list by the new format. Oh, I have no interest in doing that. It's not a balanced ban list. Like, just not playing Cleaver and not playing Turbine against corporations that are at their full power level. Like, that's not a format that anyone's balanced. So I don't think we're going to have any intentions in doing that. I think we're going to wait for the new, obviously for the new set to come out. But like, just playing runners and cutting out 5 of your best cards is not going to make an interesting game, right? Hey, Conrad, how's it going? First live stream of Con in a while. Hype for the Scoops Week. I guess we saw the art on your picture. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully launch has been good. Let me look at the schedule. I did. Got to post my deck list for it, but built a Ken deck for it. Drink lots of lemon ginger tea. I'm starting on my coffee first. I think we're out of ginger tea at this point. I've been drinking like old mint Christmas tea that we found. That's good. But yeah, good work going out to an event. That's probably not the right term to there, but there was a huge event in New York. It was like 30 players for in North America. That's fantastic for a district. They're just waiting for you to get distracted so they can drop the new Weyland ID. It's just Nuvang again. Just bigger Nuvang. Trash 3 cards, gain 9 credits. Hey, Gold Lava, how's it going? Scoops in every article, Riot. You played this weekend too, I imagine. You have a district this upcoming on the 12th. It's the first NPC event. I don't know if there's an article up. But Cold Lava is running the district in New Jersey. That's just this April, which is coming up pretty soon at Cedar Grove Lane at the Gilded Raven Tavern. This is a topography of New Jersey with places such as Manville and Piscataway. That's a good name. And look, you guys even have your own New Brunswick. How cute, little America there with their own little Brunswick. Oracled for the King on this weekend, but yeah, I came to NPC New Jersey. Oh, super cool. Hey, Mondi, Ohio's on April 27th? Wait, Ohio and NPC? Or just Ohio has an event? Either way, I'm stoked. I haven't heard of Ohio and NPC, but like, might as well at this point, huh? Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, Ren, should have scheduled the BHI for today. Play hand with Mysterium rules where I can't talk. Ren, you sent me a nice email. I haven't responded to you yet, but I will for sure. It's been on my to-do list. We've been pretty busy. Hopefully you're doing well, huh? Also, thanks for supporting the channel. Deck from Not Again, Not a Gimp, the Tier 0 Corp. Yeah, that Ag Infusion. I played against 1 or 2 Ag Infusions like that. I think we got bodied on like turn 5 playing against Alex Boyd, playing a list like that. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like Clearinghouse is kind of a messed up card. Somebody called this out in a comment earlier in a video that it was like one of the System Gateway 101 videos where we were playing a deck that has Clearinghouse in it. And the idea is like, isn't Clearinghouse functionally in a 6 advanced agenda that gives you 7 points? Isn't Clearinghouse a 6/7, right? Like, how many advancements do you need for a 7 advanced agenda? And the answer is 6, which is really funny because like we don't see a lot of Clearinghouse. It technically won Worlds, mind you, a couple of years ago, and this deck playing an Ag Infusion is also pretty good because that's the problem with a 7-point agenda is the runner has to do everything they can right now to get in and destroy it, and even if they do, well, then they probably don't have money for you to push the next agenda. It's like kind of the Vientian Keeling problem, right? Like Keeling, it wasn't so much that Keeling killed people, it's just like once they dealt with the first Keeling, then the second Keeling killed them, or more accurately, low hand size killed them when they ran into ice. And in theory, I hear it. Like, this is the same thing, is that you have to deal with the clearinghouse, and then you still have to trash it for 3, and then they have a huge window. It's wild. It's really, really wild. Catching strays over here. So sorry, Eric. Hey, Laura, I had the best time in my first organized play event this weekend. Shout out to Netrunner people playing for being the nicest people, even though I tried to see how they run turn 3. You tried to or you died to? I'm glad you're coming out and getting involved. This is something that like might not be obvious. There's a lot of people who watch this channel who haven't gotten involved in organized play, who maybe don't go out to locals. Maybe they can't. Maybe there is no local scene, or don't go to events because they think events are for competitively minded weirdos, or, you know, just not their thing. And I promise you, like, it's going to be hard to convince y'all that that's the case or not the case. I just need to convince y'all of one thing, which is like I've been a part of, or to some extent, of a bunch of different card game communities. And the biggest thing about Netrunner is honestly not how great the game is, but it's actually how great the community is. And this seems pretty saccharine and sappy and like, yeah, like you're going to believe me, but it genuinely is. It's very, very strange how different this game is from other games. And so if you go out to a place and you meet people and you're like, you're excited to be there, you're scared to be there, you know, all this sort of parts of the Venn diagram. People are really, really happy that you came out, and they're very good at bringing you in. So I cannot recommend it enough if you're listening and you're not like comfortable going to your first event. I don't think I've ever heard a situation where someone's gone to their first event and been like, yeah, never again, that was bad. It's always the opposite for sure. Gotta shoot back on your next stream. Yeah, I'm worried for next Monday maybe. Till Elevation, we're in silly season. It does sound like that. Kato says, I've been doing well. Definitely not playing over the odds on the last turn of my game against the king over and over again in my head. Whoa, was it really close? I'm pretty sure you top cut it, right? And so like your first round opponent were you playing against first or second? I saw the matchup. I was like, oh, that's a pretty intimidating matchup. But you seemed like you played great. You're playing also like, what's it called? Epiphany, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out. That's sick. PMK, hopefully you're doing well too. Thank you. I dropped a video containing discussion of the Cleaver ban, invalidated hours later by the ban list, and the possibility that TDS plus BAS is the new biotic labor, invalidated a day later by ESL. Oh, very cool. Lucille, what's the channel? Pre-preview season is doing me dirty. That is how it is. For what it's worth, like I do want to emphasize this, that a lot of community creators like myself have seen a couple extra cards that most people haven't. So for instance, the card that was in the article yesterday for the ban list, I had seen it before. And I do want to be very clear as much as possible when I like talk about the predicted future. I will be very obvious when I'm referencing things I've seen, or otherwise I'll just try and say like, this is what I would have guessed based off of the evidence I've seen. So if it feels hard from the outside trying to like make guesses going in, and other people seem a bit like maybe wiser than you, sometimes they have, you know, some hidden information. Lucille, what's the channel, please? That's sick that you're making content. A runner game versus Augie was so funny. It was going to kill lines with chat. By runner game versus Augie. From ESL? Man, the last Scorpios game was buck wild. So let's talk about ESL really quickly. So ESL was this weekend and it's finished. It was its final week. I did the streaming, but I didn't talk. My voice was cooked. And so after 9 weeks, we had 9 players battling out in Eternal. And the final week, we had one player, Tehran, who was leading in points, but that was the last week that Tehran couldn't play. Because every week, one person has a bye week. Because that means every week there'll be 8 games or 8 players playing. So first week, I think all 15 headed off. Last week, Tehran headed off. Everyone has 1 week off. Which means Tehran is sitting there. Mind you, Tehran classically playing a 200 card deck on 33 points. And just has to basically survive the week. And it happened. The last game versus off 15 and Ren was super important. And Ren makes this like what I think the commentators and myself included thought was just an absolutely buck wild decision for Rebirth going into Essa, into the Thule matchup. And that game was so wild. Like I think Ren just kind of gave up on controlling the board and instead was just like hammering R&D, and it was working out. There was a bad misfire supposedly of the Clan Vengeance, but it turned out to do enough damage, and Ren just gets there. And I think that was actually a massively important upset, because most people I think split in the last week. There's some really, really exciting games. I cannot recommend enough. I want to give a huge shout out to Tehran, which like there's a lot of players who've been playing Eternal for a long time, who are also like very well-known, incredibly high caliber competitive players. And Tron has been a relatively newer player who has not played in, you know, old FFG days, who's been doing a lot to also support the format. He's one of, I think, the biggest like eternal stands who is not from the old guard, who hasn't like played an account siphon or legally played a crowdfunding. That's not entirely true. There's obviously people in there that fall into that camp, but shout out to Tron, who played ridiculous decks, really shaped the meta too, because other people started doing the thing Tron was doing on week 1, and they were really fun and exciting games. Of course, Eternal has had some changes lately. Those changes are not enacted in this video, but they will be going forward. I have no doubt the Eternal Super League will show up in the future. If you have any feedback on what you would be more excited to see in a format, I have no doubt that they'd like to hear it. But a lot of effort goes behind the scenes for this. Shout out to like Warlock and Anarcho for organizing it. Shout out to all the players for playing all their games and recording all the games and submitting all the footage, which is a lot of work. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Last week was really quite fun. A very, very exciting ending. The reason I brought this up is that there was a weird play that even like caught Anarcho off guard, which was really funny, is that there's this like really strong defensive upgrade. I'll call it an offensive upgrade in old FFG land called Marcus Batty. And if you res and trash Marcus Batty, you play a side game, and 2 to 3 times you win, and you just resolve a subroutine on a res piece of ice. And that's obviously really good. And there was this like ridiculous play where Augustus is running R&D, and Jai reses a Marcus Batty on the remote server, and then reses the Marcus Batty on R&D, which trashes the Marcus Batty on the remote server. And then everyone's like, what? Because Jai did it really quickly. It looked like it was a mistake because, mind you can only have one unique card by name res, but you can have multiple on the tables. And it turned out that was done intentionally just so that on a following turn, friends in high places could put both Marcus Batties on the table. Like the only way to trash the Marcus Batty on the remote server was to res the Marcus Batty so that the second Marcus Batty could get resed. I've never seen that play line before, and I think it was damn near right. Like it was a very, very good play line. And it was just very forward thinking. It was a very exciting game because the remote server was like double archers. You don't need a Marcus Batty there. It was very, very cool. Anyways, Eternal Super League is just like, it's kind of the coolest thing about Eternal. Like you can say what you want about Eternal power level. Eternal power level is really high. I'll be honest, I'm not a big current enjoyer, and I'm assuming we're going to see fewer and fewer currents in Eternal. A bunch of the balance changes were to hit currents. Like, I don't think Rumor Mill makes good gameplay. I think one of my feedbacks on Eternal is that there's a bunch of games that are just become non-games. Like, when you play Rumor Mill against Op, the game is over, and it's just really unfun to watch. But for every, like, not great game in which not a lot happens because the matchup is just kind of cooked, there are games where you get to see unique and interesting interactions, which for someone who's been playing the game for 10 years, I still haven't seen that. Like still cool things pop up all the time. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. It was a very, very exciting format for sure. The Marcus Adrian Batty. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. You're right, Spark. I thought it was an Adrian dig, but who knows? The PE deck list of the week. I died to Seamless. See how they run end of line like turn 3. Yeah, shout out to Dave. This is the one from the West Coast. The Ghost Meat's been playing this sort of archetype for a long time. I wasn't really serious more about the ban list. I need to use /s more liberally. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, it's just stream chat. It's hard to tell tone sometimes. Wow, to think that I might have played my last game in Jemison, Jemison game. Connor, how's it going? 100%. And like, I don't think people realize that too. To some extent, at the last district we had, there's a bunch of players who might have fired the last Rashida. Did they realize that when the Rashida went off? No, I don't think they did. Sometimes it just be like that. I'm a big believer in honey and a sore throat. Joshua, I think you're right too. That's where the tea is for. I can't put in the I could put in the coffee. I don't want to though. Thank you though. Appreciate it. Wow, Map Enjoyers just ate good. How's it going, Lazy? My favorite bad HB upgrade reminder. Cheap viewers. Too late to ban that, but just ignore that for sure. Hello, Mondi. Hello. I'm doing well, thanks. No rush. My email was long. I should have done some 82 words challenge. I responded to another email. And I'm like, this is way too long. And I'm like, I already wrote it. I can't delete it. But I don't know if someone wants to get an email and it's that long or not. Like, not from you. I like the long emails, I'll be honest. In 15 days, I'll be free. But has very reminiscent of Re-Education. Yeah, it is to some extent. It definitely is. It's in some ways more fiddly, in some ways less fiddly. Because you don't have to commit to it until, like, you know, if you have the kill combo in hand, that's when you push the Re-Education and you do it on the next turn. It's more like 9 advance since it needs to sit on the board with 6. Yeah, you could argue somewhere in the middle. It does need to sit on the board, which is different than other agendas, but 9 advance also means more time and money. It just has to survive longer. So let's just say 7 advance, right? Kind of. 8 advance, whatever number. But yeah, there's nuance to it. It also dies to pinhole, which agendas don't. Breaking up as a channel. Okay. Hey, Cyberseal, the Nottingham deck not only won New York, but Vienna and Cambridge too. Go Scrubs. Hell yeah. Yeah, I have no doubt it's a very, very good deck. I also feel like people have loosened up their tech against Ag Infusion, which does help a heck of a lot. It's better than a 6-7. It's X7 where X is the runner's hand size. Yeah, in that matchup though, it's usually full hand size. Like there's not a lot of reasons you'll be under hand size when Ag Infusion has a remote server in that way, but you're not wrong. Sometimes it does go a bit faster. Pinhole cutters and shambles. I am convinced from what we've seen before, like at a minimum, Anthill excavation, like we are getting close to a 2x pinhole meta. Maybe it's the same as Rashida, but maybe that's not the case. I guess it's the only asset we've seen, but I'm pretty sure pinhole is going to come back. Every time a set comes out, people like they have some sort of really exciting upgrade or really exciting asset, and people are like, "Oh, that's my deck is going to be about." And then like pinhole's never not bad. Healing is a beautiful baby who did nothing wrong. I don't go that far. Generally, the best card game community isn't even close. Yeah, it's pretty wild. +1 for the best community card gaming you can find. It is kind of a big deal. Gonna try so hard to get a scene going in my area after elevation. I've been dying to play Paper Netrunner basically since I started playing. Yeah, Paper Netrunner is also like kind of cool. It's like kind of really great. Like JNet's one thing, and like power to JNet. JNet's the best, but like playing this game in paper is it's night or day. It's like a very different experience. There's no doubt in my mind that there is a strong community of people who are patient with new players and will to teach the game. It's pretty great. Yes, this game is very specifically kind towards newer players as much as it is kind to everyone, but newer players too. Come for the game, stay for the community. OP events are not competitions. They're social gatherings with the competition included. Yes. That's the thing I've been saying about Worlds, but like all the way since, you know, going to your districts or your GNK or whatever, it's always the same thing. It's an excuse to come out. Maybe 3 or 4 people there will like take it too hard, like really be pushing it. They're nice the whole way up, that's for sure. But the majority of times is people coming out for an excuse to play games. Did Restream Bot get banned? No, Restream Bot is not banned. It's just that there's like 100 viewers on YouTube and 13 on Twitch. So it just seems like it. It's just Twitch is a bit quieter these days. Shout out to Cold Lava. I confess I've barely played Netrunner for the last year, but I still love showing up to watch streams and events when I can because it's such a nice place to hang out. Hey, cheers. That's very kind. I get that too. There's a bunch of games that I don't play for certain reasons, usually because of time or money or whatever accessibility stuff, that I still like appreciate content. I'll drop by. I want to hear what their metas are, their you know, the news and balance changes and stuff like that. YouTube.com/rigging up is Lucy's channels. Thank you, Eric. YouTube.com. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Cool. Subscribed. A Yu-Gi-Oh! MTG player reviews, Netrunner previews. Also feat Netrunner players. Very cool. I'll check that out. That seems really cool. It's got to be 3x pinhole now that DJ Fenris has become Rotato. I don't know if I've seen anyone. How's it going, Utati? Go for DJ off of or pinhole off of DJ. It's been a while. I've seen all the cards. I'm in NSG. Oh, never mind. I was trying to gaslight people into thinking TDS plus Bass is real. It just didn't last long. Channels rigging cups from a local meta, not just me. Oh, super cool. How hard are you trying to not accidentally slip info/name of a card you've already seen but not you spoiled? Carefully, honestly. I'm like really terrified that I'll make a mistake, that NSG will be upset at me because like leaks suck. Hey, you want to hear something fun? One of my spoilers cards leaked. I probably shouldn't say that because like the Streisand effect, but like one of the cards that NSG gave to me actually leaked and was being distributed on like local Discord servers. And mind you, people didn't know it was like my card, let alone a card they shouldn't have known. I think largely those leaks have been kind of like deleted out of just like people asking like, can you please delete this? But like feels bad. Like it's not a card I made, but it was a card I was excited to talk about. And like I still am. Only very few people saw it from my understanding, but like leaks suck. Like I don't want to be the person who actually says something that does that. Obviously, the closer we get it, the more kind of like, you know, you can let out a bit more information, but I'm pretty mindful for sure. As someone who like talks a bit faster than he thinks half the time, admittedly, like I have to slow down on certain things, but I do generally do a very good job at like not hinting too much. And then I will sometimes subtly make hints about things that are not obvious references, just so like people in the know will have a little laugh about it. Like I just like to make NSG kind of giggle a bit sometimes. I was on game point for a few turns waiting to see what the next agenda when the king runs R&D with the twinning and sees 2, I think. At that point, R&D is like 3 agendas and 3 non. Oh, head spin? Oh, hold off. It cut off your thing. My restream thing cut it off. I'm so far behind on chat. Oh, head spin, you just ellipsed, but didn't pop it because I forgot in the moment. I could have maybe popped it to change the odds in the last access. Oh, bummer. Bummer. My thoughts on the RB were if you pick Thule, you aren't actually defending centrals. Yeah, I think that's right. Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah, nice, Ren. I got the names. It was really fun game to watch. I think like the commentators are saying like if you know it's an asset matchup, like Wizard is like the easy choice. I don't know if that deck is on Onto. It might not be. But it was a really sick play, and I ended up working out. Like the sort of disruption is hard for that deck to deal with because that deck wants to hold cards in hand because it locks me. It's pretty nice. Hey, Narco, I believe Off 15 was going to score out if Ren didn't win there, and then yes, I do think the combo was disrupted a bit. Off 15 seemed to be on the back foot slightly. There's a bit of disruption. I assume Tron was one of the old guard. No, Tron's only been playing for a while. Tron's been playing for a bit. Not that long. Tron's been playing only NSGR. Hey Izzy, how you doing? How's your launch week? Your scoops week, launch weeks, whatever, you know what I mean. Baddie's an offensive upgrade. I'm glad we got there at the same time, Jay. It sounds right. Just timing wise was someone's win for sure that turn. Yeah, that turn was going to be very, very important. I just started playing competitively over a year ago. Yeah, Eternal League. This is what I get for being busy. Sounds super cool. Can't wait to watch the stuff. Yeah, all the VODs are there. I know for a bunch of the VODs, I've added timestamps to the ones I've edited, so you can like scrub through. Shout out to Eternal Super League also had a spoiler. If you hadn't seen it, there is a new NSG card, which like shout out to Warlock, who like in Anarcho, they recorded a game and got it in there, which is really fun. So there is a unique, mechanically unique card for in the ESL that you can watch. Vovo T hot tech. I will never stop firing Rashida. That's what Eternal's for. Until the Rashida near print. I guess so, but it's not going to say Rashida on it. So Rashida will draw cards in her hearts. Hey, Lady Duckland. I fired my last Maganga. Diogen, you didn't fire the last Maganga. You didn't fire your last Maganga. You fired the last Maganga. You know how they say, like, you know, there's 2 days you die, the day you die and the day that someone last says your name? Fucking Maganga died. You functionally killed Maganga. No one is going to say this name. No one's going to think about this besides you. Oh, and Izzy. And Paul. But yeah, you definitely retired Maganga. Oh man, Rashida gets the job done and then some, and every corp wants to do is fire her. No corps are happy. Rashida nearprint would have to be pretty good for me to stop using Rashida. I think I was could sit on the board with 5 and win a La Costa. I think that's how we lost, is that La Costa really cooked it. And we're like, oh, is that an agenda that like Alex has no indication, like no reason to score out? Nah, we just died. Find it super funny. I panicked myself into running 10x useless currents out of fear of cerebral static. Yes. Yep. I do think if people played cerebral static, that would be pretty good for y'all. But who knows? 2x pinhole meta always has been. I feel like the last event I played 3 pinhole. There's an argument from Tread Lightly over pinhole stated by Kikai. Yeah, I don't think like Tread Lightly is fine. I do think I like to be in a world where I can play pinhole. I think that deck is a bit different because it is an ice destruction deck, so you go a bit further by like taxing out credits, and maybe you can charge remotes over a bit better. But outside of those like situations, I think pinhole is going to be a lot better for you in a lot of board states going forward. I've been trying Tread Lightly over pinhole in 419. Feels amazing. Yeah, people aren't playing around it, but I think there's a difference. Pinhole threading also like can give you an Amakuga counter. Like it can do a lot for you. So I don't know. I don't undercount this card. Underestimate this card. This card's really good. First Netrunner stream I saw Andre was talking about how it might be a 2 pinhole meta. Hasn't changed. I can't believe how not far that had leaked. Yeah, right? Sorry to hear that. Damn, this sucks. No, it's okay. It's like it happens. I think it like went around a couple like Canadian discords and then it got shut down. I was actually really lucky because I was talking to the ShadowNet folks, and we were talking about some spoiler stuff, and then they were like, basically the card came up. I'm like, wait, that's my card. How do you know about that? And they're like, oh, it was posted here. I'm like, oh, dang it. And then like I think Whiteblade showed up and like asked people to remove it. So shout out to Whiteblade. Lucille did a really great job on the editing of that video, which is a podcast style discussion, but bringing up all the cards being discussed and also shows who's speaking all the time. Major effort. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know there was a leak. Yeah, I probably should be talking about it, but like at this point, if you really want to, you can. Otherwise, you can wait like a week. If you really, really want to find it somewhere, you probably can. I'd be upset if you did it, so don't, but it's somewhere, I guess. I have to master my coy smile when discussing elevation with local players. Yeah, I know. Hey, good morning, Grendel. Analyzing your word usage rate in the past few months compared to the few months before that to figure out your card name. that's the trick. I don't know my card names. I didn't read them. I just looked at the art. For me, it's hardest when the cards that are partially revealed, I have to fight constantly not saying the name of 1-4. Yeah, that one can be tricky, but actually, I think from, I can't say more than that. That is true. I think from the card fed, you can get a lot, though, if you're talking about the partially revealed cards. People try offering leaks on a local Discord. Fortunately, there's a lot of old heads in there who aren't interested in inside baseball nonsense. Yeah, hey, Dungeons, how's it going? Yeah, some people are not into that for sure. Gotta play Blades now. I'm hyped to hear your thoughts on Scoops. See you in the VOD. Millennium Blades? Manuel, enjoy. Hey, Antoine, how's it going? Time to listen to my long drive. Spider Bro, enjoy your drive. Hopefully you're well. I don't think I can be on Ontological if it doesn't proactively 2 core damage. Yeah, me neither, which is like why I'm confused why it's Thule, but I'm not sure. Stuart. Hey, Kyle. More like Maganga. Dare you Maganga your last ga. Be right back. Play 3 of everything was the best code for my deck building style. Is he? Yeah, I know, and that's the sort of thing where like you gotta know the player. It's about the player. It's not about the game. Every deck is a 3 of. Be surprised when I see your cards. Scout's honor. I'm not a scout. Not joking though. When you said you didn't design the card, are there cards in the coming set you did design? Coke, if you're asking me, no, I don't. I'm not part of NSG. There's no cards that I've designed. The only way you can design a card is become part of NSG or like win a major event, largely. And I think the win a major event thing, are they going to stop doing that? Or is that only for now winning worlds? Because they used to have it there's too many ways to design cards. And from my understanding, that was a slow workflow. So now it's a bit more limited. So now you can get your likeness on cards more at the same rate, but it's harder to get like a champ design. I think you have to win worlds for a champ design. I think you used to be able to get a design if you won like a Continentals or other stuff. I'd be the surprise if the 14 cost isn't Komodo. Like the name? We don't know the name, but like the art is 100% a Komodo dragon. So who knows what it's going to be called. How many worlds do you need to cast before you get a champ card? Honestly, I have no idea. I feel like I already have a bit of a legacy in this game, but like I'd put my silly face on a card, no problem. I feel like that's the vanity of it. Like I feel like the pressure of designing a card, like I'm already ripping on Sokka for like KPI, which is going to be a totally cromulent card. Like, don't get me wrong. And I think Sokka is great, but like, I feel like it's hard to design a champ card because then I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. I feel like likeness, great. You can't get it wrong. But I feel like champ design, people can be like upset at you. I don't know. Maybe I want to avoid that. You can design your own Netrunner set. There's no laws against it. Yeah, we've been working on one. We don't get it out in time, and then the new set comes up. Not like it wasn't delayed, so it's on me. One way to make people attend locals is promising them scoops attend and just not have any scoops, but then they also post on Discord that the scoop was fire, rinse and repeat. It's only sustainable like 1 month out of the year, it turns out. I'd be shocked if the 14 was called Komodo. That's like saying Nanook should have been called Polar Bear. I feel like for ice, it's a bit different. I think also if it's unique, that can change. Like, I feel like unique cards generally have more interesting names. But like, Formicary was called Formicary, not Ant. So yeah, maybe it'd be surprising if it was just called the simple thing. Right? Like, Vampironasa is the name of a thing, right? It's not called Squid. And like, I'm not going to go here anymore. The clam card, Afroon, is named after an actual clam, so it's not that usually on the nose. I'd be shocked if the 14 was called. I just read that. People's champ card. If you want a vanity card, you just ask for a 6/4 agenda. He's playing Eternal. It's pretty good. KPI is an incredibly Sokka card. Yeah, 100%. But I feel like KPI is a card that like people are going to use and Sokka is going to enjoy and people are going to genuinely like it. The issue is like it was one of the first cards revealed from Elevation and like it's not a card that, you know, sells pre-orders for whatever that's worth. But like power to Sokka, he did a thing he wanted to do. The art's great. The card's going to be flexible. It's good. You already have the art for it. If you're talking about the Zellinger, kind of, but when we signed the contract for that, I can't distribute that for money. So like mixed bag, like I have to look at what we're able to do with that art because I don't think I can just put it on an alt art and sell it and stuff. I have to give it away, which like sustainable, maybe. Funny enough, I was going to put that art maybe on a daily cast at some point, but I guess we'll have to change that idea. Seeing BTL Glacier in person, New York City Finals, has made me increasingly scared of what KPI can do. Yes. Yeah, for sure. My likeness card is coming soon. Ooh. You can reprint Geist with slightly different text and slap your face on it. I'm gonna put my face right on his abs. Get a likeness wrong. It's not Komodo. There's a small tag at the top of the first letter. Oh, really? Formicary is more where the ants live than the ants itself. Montparnasse with 2 S's. So true. Yeah, no, Formicary is like, that is an ant type term. Like, fourmi is an ant in French. Like, that's the Latin thing. So this is where the ants live. I also like, this is a Liga. That's pretty buck wild. I think the low quality and the watermark does the Liga no favors here. But cool card. Completely ignoring Orca? Oh my god. Yeah, but like, this is pre-Orca was Leviathan, right? That's kind of more what I would expect. But I do think, yeah, Orca is strange, isn't it? Tattoo Bowl is not called Armadillo? Hey, Sea Beast. No, it's not. I feel like programs are more likely to take on, well, okay, that's not a program, but programs are more likely to take on personality, it feels like, than ice is, unless it's unique ice. The thing about KPI is that it says 2023 World Champ, so like, where's his 2022 card? A lot of the times the card will either not align with a set or will align with a set. So like getting your World Champ card to make sense in the context of Elevation, which is meant to be an evergreen set and meant to be slightly simpler on rules, that can just happen. So the 22 card, I have no doubt, is like in development. I think Sokka has talked a bit about it. I don't know what I've heard this from. Is it a podcast or... I don't want to leak anything that I might have heard, but I know like Sokka has been talking about this. I'm pretty sure he showed up on podcasts talking about like, I feel like something to do with Avatar or a sword or something. And that's just something we'll see in the future. For sure. Yeah, it's weird how small Leviathan is. Like Leviathan used to be a joke card, but like 6 credits, you could honestly afford to install this. It's not that big comparatively. Yeah, there's a backlog of Sokka champ cards, yeah. Getting your champ card released is just kind of difficult because it has to work with the set. Like Magnum Opus, for those who don't know, it was just a set of champ cards that and FFG never got to, and they just released them all at once. And like that was probably going to take them years to catch up on that because like a set usually only has 1 champ card. A kid I faced in Turmoil got Spark at Leviathan, which is hilarious. Oh, that's okay, isn't it? That's fine. Yeah, I think it was a space sword from Avatar. Yeah, I know very little about Avatar, but I think it was that. I just don't want to say something that wasn't right. All right, I've caught up on chat. Makes more sense for programs to have more personality as they are an expression of runners who are people, where ice is sometimes made by corpse and therefore mass-produced. Yes, I agree with that. That it feels like Nanook being, you know, a bear as opposed to bear makes a lot of sense because somebody wrote this. Magnum Opus was such a cool thing for FFG to do. Could have easily just said, now we'll leave it. I know. I think Magnum Opus is actually genuinely such an optimistic product from FFG. Mind you, some of the art was already commissioned, some of that was reused from other stuff, but like genuinely just a very cool thing to be like, hey, we owed these people, we think it'd be nice to give this out. Everyone at Worlds got it, which means that the real deal of this is a very rare product. But yeah. And then shout out to the community after that. A lot of community members made versions of these cards that actually had the faces of the world champs. Like this is not Mike Sheehan, but I have a version that I believe Kat did that has Mike Sheehan's face in it. Well, sorry, I shouldn't show this version of it because that's not the right name of the world champ on Slot Machine. Apologies for that, but outside of that, it's a very good product. Obviously, at the time, that made more sense. I wonder who'll get the last 7-point Beal before it rotates out. Yeah, it's an interesting question. According to my 5 minutes of internet research, Biowak Darat and Biowak Rakasa are 2 local names for the Komodo dragon, along with Aura. But with the tag, we know it's not Aura. Oh, cool. Bivouac. Can't wait for my deck, but entirely out of cards with Sokka's face in the art. Did you wait for Jason Don? Did people get the sports medal jerseys in Opus? I've never seen it outside of ABR. Yes, at Magnum Opus, the shirt you could buy was it was like t-shirt. It wasn't a jersey, but it was styled like a jersey. It was a white t-shirt that had like the New Angeles Marlins on it or something. I don't think we're gonna find it, but there was this shirt that was like a sports jersey for Netrunner. We're definitely not gonna find it. It was the New Angeles Swordfish. Thank you. Was it Swordfish? Yeah, this thing. They said M Opus on the back with a number. You also got all these. This is the Altar Diversion of Funds, which I'm happy to have. That was a rare thing. You got the Magnum Opus cards to play, the NAPD contract cards. I have all this stuff. My t-shirt Doesn't fit me anymore. I think it got ripped. It was really old. But you do see people wearing this clothing still. But this was given out, mind you, at Worlds 2018. The playmat in 2018 was like very strange. If I'm not mistaken, it was just like a gray mat that FFG basically bulk bought the same generic playmat for every game that they put on. So like years before, the playmat would actually have like art on it, but they didn't do that. So that's fun, kind of funny. This is also another thing that happened at Worlds in 2018, which is pretty interesting too, is that they printed out a bunch of identities for each faction, including the mini factions. And if you were in the top, I'm not sure what the number was on each day, if you were in the top 5 of the faction at Worlds, you won this this ID. I actually was the top 5 criminal at one of the days of Worlds, so I have this Gabriel Santiago that says top criminal, but they did mess it up, and I think the subtitle on it says something like Anarch or something. Let me find it. But I was the top criminal at Worlds many moons ago. Oh, it's probably in deep storage because it's not a legal identity in standard, but they messed up the subroutine trait on the criminal identity. I think it says something to do with Anarch on it. I've never seen these. Yeah, these were also hard to get, but this is where I believe Pat did top mom stuff. So he was the top placing Sunny. Mind you, there were these weird click counters that were the beanstalk, which is kind of cool. These acrylic IDs, I think I have these, but they rotated. These tokens were kind of okay, but these were from being top placing identities. The criminal one, again, I remember that they got the text wrong, but these were hard to get. There's only like 10 of these in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And I do have one of them because I played Geist and did good enough. Criminal wasn't very popular at the last Worlds. You should re-upload this to Alt City Grid. Oh, cool. Like what? The scan of it? The Apex ones go for actual silly money. Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I forget what the back is. I should dig these out because they're in deep storage. Pat definitely has the like specialist. Oh, I think the mistake was, you can't see on the criminal, is that on the bottom it says Freedom Fighter on Gabe. I think it says Gabriel Santiago Freedom Fighter, which is Reina Roja's tagline. Yeah, the NBN one is kind of sick. Mind you, these are core identities from the original 2012 core set. Actually, no, from the revised core set. So this is not Engineering the Future. This is the one that gives Stronger Together. But yeah, these are really cool identities. Technically, this is a legal personal evolution identity. They only did this once, horizontal identities. Gotta go locals now, catch up on the rest of the VOD. Lucille, excited to catch up on the channel. That's sick. If you were top crim, you definitely have the Titan and Max. Okay, it's been a while. I don't remember. Top 5 criminal will go really hard on a business card. Yeah. That's sick. It was a top 8 per day. I have PE. Oh, yo, Roberto. Firstly, thanks for supporting the channel. I'm excited you're coming back out. So Roberto has the PE because Roberto was like top 32 playing Team Mukundo, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he has one of those PEs. That's sick. Also, illegal building a better world. Yeah, this one's legal, and then PE are legal because, mind you, the other identities are not legal. Can you see my mouse cursor? Now you can. These two are legal. Reina is technically legal. Adam, Sunny, no. This is Chaos Theory. Her text was just +1 MU. And then Gabe rotated alongside Apex a while ago. Why aren't Corp ID pictures of the execs and the NBN isn't? Because this is just reused art. Like, FFG did not commission art for any of this stuff. They just had art they used. I believe this is the Reina from the cover of one of their novellas, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the Sunny alt art that they commissioned after. This is Gabriel Santiago in front of Liquidation. Like, they didn't make any art for this. They just grabbed art. Yeah. Right, like that's just what they do. So if you think it doesn't make sense that they're all like, there was no Victoria. Yeah, Victoria Jenkins on here actually would have been cooler, but I think people were more familiar with Jackson Howard. Yeah. The Monster Hunter novella. Oh, very cool, very cool. Disappointing lack of bow guns. Get it because of the game. I don't know much about Monster Hunter. The novellas are fun reads. I read Monitor. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It was many, many moons ago. Didn't you do comms from Opus? Yes, but it was 2 days. So I did comms for day 2 in Top Cut, and I played on day 1. Comms from Opus was sick. If you ever watched the Mopus stuff, the animation at the beginning, I did that. I got some help from Kat back in the day, which was pretty sick. But the animations with the Magnum Opus and like the DDoS and DJ Fenners, I animated all that stuff. It was sick. The rain art I'd never seen before. Yeah, it was on. Yeah, hold on. That is from this. Yeah, that was one of their novellas they put out. I remember vaguely seeing the Apex card because being the Apex at Worlds was relatively easy. They did also do an Apex full art that was pretty good, and it actually had like textless art on the back. There's a chance you saw that one. That one was a bit more common, but who knows? I still have my Swordfish shirt. It hasn't held up great, but it's a good sleep shirt. Yeah, it was not a high quality shirt, so mine did fall apart, but it's like, yeah, you can sleep in it for sure. The password's actually Swordfish. I've been using Swordfish as a computer password for many moons. That's for sure. All right. Thanks for hanging out. We're gonna catch up on some chat stuff, on yeah, let's catch up on some news. We'll play a couple games. My voice is doing okay. We'll see how long we hold out. So for those who don't know, the 2504 ban list dropped yesterday, and I recorded a video talking about it. Check it out. It's 40 minutes. That's technically short for what normally it is for these things, but 5 cards are banned out. The short of the long is that corporations look pretty bad at come rotation, which no surprise. We could see that coming. And so just kind of dealing with runner economy and runner icebreaker suites is a cool thing to do. You're probably familiar with this if you've watched this video yesterday. It seems like people really enjoyed it, so thank you for hitting the like and all that sort of stuff. I really appreciate it. Helps a heck of a lot. But I do want to say a couple things going into this. Firstly, let's look at the spoiler, because when this came out, it did have a spoiler card in it, and I didn't know what it would be at the time I recorded, and I was very clear about that. But we got this new card, which is the Game Dragon Pro. This is part of the marketing article. They mentioned the Game Dragon Pro, and now we see it, which is pretty fun. I want to shout out, this is Elizaveta Sokolova. Elizaveta does a lot of like the what's it called? The hardware. Like I think Elizaveta did buffer drive, probably the memory diamond as well. I didn't know this because I didn't have one of these. But actually this art design with this sort of like crest and these 3 lines is exactly the same as the Game Shark Pro, which is hilarious. Like it just straight up ripped off from this. The exact same design on it. I've never actually seen a Game Shark in person. My parents weren't really into video games when I was growing up. We were PC gamers, so I never actually messed around with this sort of hardware. I've only played Game Shark while playing emulator stuff and touching the buttons on there. But that's pretty sick. That's pretty cool. Interesting comparison to Gebra Celesti text-wise, yeah. So what does this card do? It's unique. It's a mod. It's a combination of like 2 or 3 cards from the history of Netrunner put together, and one of them was actually a very important card for a moment. On the Reddit, I read the Game Dragon Pro is unique. I don't understand why it would be. As in why it would be in terms of the lore, or why it would be in terms of the game mechanics. It is unique. That's what the diamond is here. A lot of players can miss that. But Game Dragon Trademark Pro, it's a mod hardware. It costs 2. It's only 2 influence, so you can definitely splash this if you want to. And when you install this hardware, and also when your turn begins, you may host this hardware on and install the non-AI icebreaker. So you technically don't need a program to install this on. In theory, you can just install this, which is cool. It doesn't need to be attached to something, so you can install it on turn 1 if you want to. I don't think it's a great play, and then move it later. But then, of course, you can also move it between cards at the start of every turn trigger, which is a start of turn trigger that people are going to miss and it's going to cost them the game. We'll come back to the history of that because there's a precedent set on that. But this is a really important thing to nail. Then the host icebreaker gets +1 strength, and abilities that increase its strength last for the remainder of the run. And there's flavor text that says instead of any shorter duration. I was talking about Pat about this. Like that's such funny reminder text, because it's not common that reminder text makes you doubt that you know how the game works, because you're like, what do you mean shorter duration? But I don't know why that matters, but it is technically correct. It makes me more confused. It makes me less confident that I know how Netrunner works than more confident, which is pretty funny. So obviously in context, we're losing K2CP Turbine, and I was very clear in the video, I'm hoping for something that's a bit more nuanced. And Game Dragon Pro is definitely not K2CP Turbine for many reasons. Firstly, it's only +1 strength, and it's only on 1 icebreaker, excuse me. Of course, the icebreaker strength doesn't reset, but like, answer me this question. How often have you ran and have to break 2 expensive high strength barriers in a row? Why does this cost 2? What is this free in the picture? I don't know. I'm not sure if this is meant to be a dumpster, because if that's the case, the Game Dragon Pro is massive. Love when a card insults my own intelligence. No, Vinny, for what it's worth, like, I think reminder text is really good for a new to play, new to learn to play. Like I like reminder text is all I'm trying to say in that clumsy sentence. But this one is like this one's a bit more confusing. I think just in case there's an effect that makes the strength last for longer than just the run. But shorter, wouldn't have to be shorter? Because it's not for any longer duration, it says any shorter duration. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. That was a joke? Okay, good. Sorry. It's hard to tell sometimes. Darius says, like, multiple times on Sunday, I've had to break 2 massive barriers in a run. Yeah. It's in the CR that longer modified durations override shorter modified durations. Interesting. Huh. Excited to see the card that makes strength last for +1 encounter, but -1 run. Less than 1 run. Yeah, it's weird. Like instead of the default duration of the encounter, right? Yeah, Bingus. From my understanding, obviously this is meant to last for the whole run instead of for the each encounter. Ice strength largely resets for each encounter. There's been a couple ice that has wording that makes it clear that they don't do that. But shorter duration is just like, It's totally rules accurate. It's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, huh? And then you think about it for a second, but it works the way that you think it works. When do you have to break more than one strength? Sisyphus protocol. Yes. I think that's the best example of why I won't hate this. So, right, generally in Netrunner, people often structure their servers for it to be a barrier, a code gate, a sentry, something like that, right? The idea is that if you can present multiple different kinds of problem, if your remote server is just code gate into code gate, then if your opponent just produces a code gate breaker, largely barring, the financial equation of breaking the ice, it's in your best interest often to like put different kinds of ice in a row, which means that there's a chance that the Game Dragon Pro's text will only be relevant for this +1 strength. Now, paying 2 credits for a movable +1 strength is kind of fine. Mind you, in FFG core set Netrunner, we had personal touch, and this came in for 2 credits, but it was 1 credit with Kate. Kate installs hardware programs, 1 less. And this saw very little play for as good it actually was in the core set. It was actually really good in the core set. The original art, mind you, looked a bit different. And this card, I believe, in ONR was like 4 credits or something. It was very, very expensive. But we have a precedent for this. The next precedent we had for this is a very important card. It actually won Worlds, and it's Net Ready Eyes. And Net Ready Eyes was a bit more expensive to play. It costs 2 net damage, but 0. But 2 net damage is a big cost. Obviously, losing cards sucks. And whenever you initiate run, you choose an icebreaker, and that icebreaker has +1 strength. So that's more flexible in some ways, but you have to make this decision. And when you forget to make this decision, this is when people lose games. I've seen a lot of very close games lost because the runner does not choose an icebreaker. And obviously, once you res the ice, if you say run, someone quickly reses the code gate, you can't go back and say, I want a Net Ready Eyes my code gate breaker. So that's really awkward. But Net Ready Eyes won Worlds. And the reason why Net Ready Eyes was a very, very important tech card is that we had a similar breaker suite structure that we do today. Instead of Buzzsaw, we had Yogg. And Yogg in the original core set was Buzzsaw. It was cracked. This is a reprint from an ONR card. It broke all code gate subroutines for free, except it was only 3 strength, and it couldn't increase its strength. So the idea is that all the cheap code gates were destroyed for no credits, but then how did you deal with the bigger code gates? And while back in the day we basically had leech, so you could leech down the ice to make it lower strength. Mind you, Data Sucker and Leech are functionally the same card. This is one of the direct reprints largely that NSG has done. But there were some cards that were a problem. You can't Data Sucker down a card that is still in the format, which is Lotus Field. And this showed up as a 2 of in a lot of decks because if people were counting on Yogg to be their breaker, if you cannot decrease the strength of Lotus Field, the only way to break Lotus Field for 0 credits is to increase the strength of your Yogg. And for that reason, and some other small reasons too, mind you, Mimic is still in standard right now, sees no play. This is also very similar to Yogg, that it can't boost its strength, but it breaks 1 for 1 sentry subroutine. There were a lot of 4 strength sentries in the back in the day that were really good. So Ichi 1.0, mind you, looked more like this back in the day. Breaking this for 3 credits with your Mimic with Net Ready Eyes was a very, very good deal. And so there was a lot of very good reasons that you actually needed a Net Ready Eyes effect more than you needed a Leech effect. And I would say modernly, that might not be exactly the case. We don't have the situation where we have cards like Yogg as much as we have cards like Buzzsaw, but I feel like we still have Leech and we still have other ways to interact with Ice Strength to some extent. Rules Crow, yeah, there's definitely Rules Crow reasons, but they're not real. Snowball says the remainder of the run. Yeah, well, speak about the original core set. We had Gordian Blade. And Gordian Blade used to be one of the best code gate breakers if you didn't do Yogg stuff. And this set also for the remainder of this run. But again, this text almost never mattered because it was very unlikely that someone would put 2 code gates in a row, let alone 2 code gates in which strength boosting actually mattered. The idea is that someone's remote server was Enigma. You don't have to boost the Gordian Blade, so it didn't matter. And then behind the Enigma, if they put a toll booth, right? Like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And so at the end of the day, all that's going to matter about this sort of thing is how many times are people putting 2 things in a row and which breakers do giving +1 strength matter more than other breakers. Hosting hardware on a program is like downloading some extra RAM. So the question is this good enough just to give a breaker +1 strength? And it might be. In certain cases, it might be. And that's when it comes down to breakers that have really ugly breakpoints. And in the current standard format, there's a couple of them. People are shouting out in chat like Carmen. And yeah, Carmen struggles to deal with something like, potentially Carmen can struggle to deal with like a drafter. Breaking drafter for 4 credits is really silly. Breaking drafter for 2 credits makes more sense. Now, I'm not convinced for Criminal being a big good use case for this breaker because Criminal wants to run a lot. And we've seen a lot of support for running in this upcoming set, which means Criminal in that sort of slot for that sort of influence can play Leech, which just seems kind of infinitely better for what Criminal wants to do. And, or of course, it can play Chesvo, which is like better.
I would say in most board states, than Game Dragon, and also is better before you get your breaker down, after you get breaker down. It's just a bit better. So that's really interesting, right? Like, I don't think Criminal is a good use case for it. I think Jai shouted out After Image. After Image is kind of cool, and that's what you kind of want. You want weird things that, like, boosting them are ugly. Like, you can only boost this by spending a stealth credit, so that means making this 3 strength will actually can save you stealth credits, and then you get 3 drafter for 1 credit, right? When do your spoilers go live? I'm not sure I can say, Eric. NSG didn't tell me that I could say specifically the date, but I've been in this. I chose the calendar date. If you're in the calendar, you'll see it. Do not throw your revolver with Game Dragon stuck on it. Revolver is also like not a big one that you do want to boost. It's funny that you can throw the Game Dragon because like getting this to 2 strength doesn't hit a lot of big breakpoints unless you're trying to get through like an anemone, I guess. Is an enemy 2 strength? I'm not in the calendar. Phil just tells me when to scoop. Oh, I can tell you off air though, but you should be in the calendar, I'm pretty sure, just so that not everyone does it on the same day. As much as we can harp on the strength retention effect, do not forget that just past Worlds we had a BTL deck where we had to push multiple barriers to 10 plus strength. Oh, I agree, Solomir, but if that's the case, like, I'm saying, is Game Dragon a better tech card than Hush? And my answer is probably not. Are you going to play in the Montreal cons? No, 0%, Eric. I'm like head TO and judge, so there's no way. So Unsmiling? Oh, so Unsmiling is 2 strength, that's for sure. All I'm trying to say is that it's actually hard to come up with situations where this is very, very good, but I do think there are a couple situations where this is worth something. For sure, this can be worth something. Firstly, if you are just playing Buzzsaw, that's fine. Playing a Buzzsaw, getting your Buzzsaw up to 4 strength. We'll see how much that matters in the upcoming meta. Best in Chest was already a nightmare, but this is the sort of breaker where if you can increase its strength +1, you save 3 credits every run. That is just a deal for sure. I think one of the decks that's probably very playable out of the bat is playing Lobisomiu, because making Lobisomiu 3 strength is not bad at all. That hits a lot of breakpoints. And while we don't have Kit, Lobisomiu is the sort of breaker that can break code gates and barriers, so boosting its strength is likely to matter. Obviously, that's a very expensive rig, but Lobu plus Game Dragon should work well together because this can break multiple things. We're also pretty sure from the art fan that we're going to see something that's kind of Palangi based that can paint subroutines. And so it's up to you to build a board state where you have one really good breaker, like say a Buzzsaw, and then you do 4 strength Buzzsaw through one thing, and then 4 strength Buzzsaw through the next thing. I think that's also a possibility if you can force the ice to be in the position you want to be. And speaking of that, like genuinely Dow, like maybe Dow actually matters here. I'm convinced that using Dow to make ice easier to break doesn't make a lot of sense, where Dow can just play Hermes and say your ice doesn't exist. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the best Dow build, but like it does give you some incentive to like do that sort of cordyceps nonsense and set up ice in a certain situation where you actually can benefit from the Game Dragon. Game Dragon also notably is it's not a program, and that's one of the best things that you can do, mind you, with Turbine, is that you can pull it out when and if you need it. And the idea here is that if you have one Game Dragon in your deck and you really need it, there's no way to tutor it. And so that's obviously going to be pretty limiting. It's nice that you can move it around, that's for sure. But it's like definitely not Turbine. And I'm not convinced that in most like reg decks that this is worth playing over some of the other options you have. I think there's a chance that if the meta works out in a certain way where 4 strength is a big breakpoint and people are still playing Buzzsaw, then this is definitely worth something. But it doesn't seem as important as any of the other cards it compares to. Game Dragon doesn't get in the way of Spark, which is huge. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good thing, is that you can't, it's hard to play Turbine and Spark of Inspiration, and having that be on a hardware slot helps a heck of a lot for sure. Can't even spec work it? Oh, why? It's not installed? I think you can. Just Wizard Chest for it. Catching up with chat. Pressure Spike might go wild. Pay to have 11 strength for the run. 2. Hey, Gaming Rush to the Max. How's it going? Yeah, Pressure Spike is like okay. The thing is, like, Pressure Spike also has like a built-in limiter that you can only use this once per run, which means that this with potentially Pressure Spike with a Game Dragon can just crush through massive barriers. And we'll come and talk about massive barriers in a second, because I think that can really matter. But yeah, there's a chance that Threat Vortex, Pressure Spike, you can get through 2 barriers cheaply. Makes sense. But if that's the case, in a lot of the matchups where Pressure Spike matters, those are matchups that I imagine Hush might even be more flexible. But to some extent, I'm not 100% sure. What if we get something that would allow non-AI breakers to break multiple types, like a reverse egret? Oh, we have it, like Lobi. I think you need more stuff like that, like Lobi, right? I feel like this is the only breaker that we have that can break multiple types. But if you have a breaker that can break multiple types, or you can consistently give multiple types, then it seems a bit better for sure. Back in like the 2020, the Gordian Blade text was actually really strong for my Pawn Shop Haley deck, where there were a lot of big ice, so each Palangi counter ended up like saving 4 or 5 credits. I feel like the bigger thing about Palangi back in the day on Swan was Paperclip existed, but I might be wrong about that. But like Pelongi saw unironic play in Shaper because you could just paperclip through like an Anansi for 4 credits. It's weird how that sounds expensive, but kind of. Oh, Penrose. Yeah, I guess Penrose sort of. Penrose in theory can break 2 types. And for what it's worth, like stealth breakers might make sense here because stealth breakers have this cost. But like I'm pretty convinced we're not going to see stealth support and elevation because that is a very slots intensive mechanic to have in this evergreen set. Riel uses Game Dragon good though. Yeah, but Riel rotates at the same time Game Dragon comes out in standard. Apologies, I must have missed some chat messages. You can boost strength not in a run. Yes, you can boost strength not in a run and immediately resets. Evergreen mechanics only in elevation. Safer, can you confirm what is an evergreen mechanic? Because it seems like threat is an evergreen mechanic, but like is mark or sabotage or charge an evergreen mechanic? Because we've seen a threat card so far, which I'm like not surprised about, but like I'd be kind of surprised if we see charge or mark or sabotage. The idea behind the reminder text is to prevent players from thinking that icebreaker strength usually stays in the same place. Yeah, that's good. Threat is evergreen, charge and mark are not evergreen. Is sabotage evergreen safer? I feel like that's specifically worded. Sisyphus, shout out, mind you, Sisyphus was called up, and this is like one of the best ways you can deal with Sisyphus because it consistently does deal with Sisyphus. If Sisyphus gets out of hand, I'm pretty sure we're going to see more ice destruction than we're going to see Game Dragon. But yeah, Game Dragon works with Sisyphus really quite well. I feel like there's some sabotage cards in the set, which is pretty surprising. Trickster Target plus Penrose plus Game Dragon. Yeah, you could do it. I don't think it's great though. What else? Very, very cool. This is cool though. It's definitely an interesting card. I think it'll be fun to play. It's not Turbine, but obviously that's the point. But I do think the way that every deck can play Turbine, not every deck might want to play Game Dragon. Oh, I do want to shout out one more thing for Game Dragon, that Turbine actually was very important, especially later in the meta, was Propeller being 2 strength helps a heck of a lot. Because there's a lot of 1 strength barriers in the current standard format, and making Turbine 1 strength or 2 strength with Turbine, making Propeller 2 strength really matters because you can go through an infinite amount of border controls, tattoo bolas, ablative barriers, all that sort of stuff. And while I don't know if you put the Game Dragon on the Propeller, it gives you that same situation where you have a low strength Fractor that can go through all the cheap stuff infinitely. I'm not convinced that's worth it because it's just a bit more clumsy. And then if you ever have to like simul chip the Propeller, you're kind of cooked because you put your Game Dragon on it. But there is also like benefit that certain cards I think deal with Game Dragon better than others. That's for sure. Will there be Trace? I would say 0% chance. 0% chance. Wouldn't be surprised if Shadow Batage shows back up. It's just a nicer to your opponent mill. Yes, it is a more tenable mill for sure. Build your own Inti. Yeah. Build your own Rising Tide at this point. Feel like energy has settled on what are effectively fixed strength traces? Yes. 3 Propeller, 1 Rising Tide Fractor Suite. I believe it, but there's a chance it might be like 2 Propeller, 1 Rising Tide, 1 Pressure Spike. And if that's the case, you might just play Pressure Spike and not playing Rising Tide. It's hard to tell. But let's talk about this the next thing. Let's talk about barriers. There's 2 things in this video that I don't think I focused on enough that I think are concerns. Trace is Def living on a farm up state along with Link. Yes, I believe so. There's no shot we're getting it back. Does Game Dragon stay on 1 card? It stays on 1 card unless you move it. Yeah. So you may host it somewhere else, but otherwise it does stay where it is, which means you can forget to move it. And a lot of players will forget to move it and they'd be like, oh, I made a run. You ran ice. Do you mind? I was meant to move this over. I forgot. And unfortunately, that is not a tenable take back. Do you think we'll see a card like Ice Carver? Oh, interesting question. I'd be kind of surprised. For what it's worth, Ice Carver looks really good in a world without Turbine. So I'd be kind of surprised. Maybe without Cleaver, it makes more sense, but I don't know. Yeah. It's just Corroder. Yeah, but Corroder classically hasn't been good enough, it seemed. Like, I honestly am worried that there's a chance that Shaper will have the best Fractor in the game. I don't think Anarch is going to have the best Fractor. That is kind of worrisome in terms of the color pie. The fact that you get to punish people for missing their trigger is good. We need more skill testing cards than NR. I hear you, Eric. I'm just trying to warn people that the heartbreak is going to happen at some point soon. Like, you're going to feel bad. Oh, yeah, we have Monkey Wrench. We do have Monkey Wrench. I wonder if Monkey Wrench is worth something. That's a good shout out. I'm really concerned by Turbine ban. I love the midpoint game of scoring behind ice. Not a fan of Glacier that doesn't even really score. So this is the thing that I'm kind of concerned about is like Cleaver going and obviously Turbine going is going to be a radical shift. But it doesn't seem like we're seeing a radical shift when it comes to the ice at all. And we were in a really weird spot, right? When did Propeller leave standard? Sorry, when did Paperclip leave standard? How does BTL win without Biovault? I'm not 100% sure. When did Paperclip leave the standard format? When did Flashpoint rotate? With TAI. Okay, so recently, right? Yeah, when the Liberation cycle started, we lost Paperclip. Now, Paperclip has for a long time been the best barrier, best fractor, excuse me. It can be installed from the bin forever, and it gets plus X strength for X credits and breaks X subroutines. So the idea is that it has just always been the best fractor in the game, and there's like 1 or 2 ice in the history of the game where Paperclip is somehow more expensive, if not equal to things like Corroder, which was the standard before it. And so this was a known quantity. This has been around since 2016. Is that what it says here? From 2016 all the way to 2022, give or take, right? So this card has been around. Then obviously Cleaver came out at some point, and Cleaver was around. For a while, these were illegal at the same time, and Cleaver didn't see a lot of play. People will still play Paperclip. Eventually, we ended up playing Cleaver, but this is just very good. And so what I'm really worried about is a lot of the barriers for the last like couple years have been designed, or classically have been designed to be reasonable against Paperclip, and have also been designed to be reasonable against Cleaver. And I feel like now with those cards out, we still are left with some cracked barriers. Right? Like, how good is Brawn now in the modern meta? How much do you break Brawn for with your Rising Tide in the early game? Like 7 credits? A lot of ice doesn't get broken for the same amount that it gets res. Now, Brawn has downsides, but I worry that we are getting to a point where a bunch of the barriers are actually going to outscale some of the options we have to break them. I'm concerned about that it looks like barriers just seem very, very good. I think in a world with Buzzsaw, and obviously now with Game Dragon, we might have issues where mid to high strength code gates might still be a bit suspicious. But I do think we might be in a situation where the barriers are better than our options to deal with the barriers. Because mind you, Brawn was designed in a world that had both Paperclip and a world that we both had Cleaver, and now we don't have any of that. And that might just be a problem. Pharaoh stocks are going up. Honestly, Diogen, yeah, Pharaoh's even. Like, Pharaoh's is one fewer strength, 1 more cost. And even without advancing it, how good is Pharaoh's? When you have to Rising Tide through a Pharaoh's for like 7 credits, like, it doesn't feel terrible. And I do not know what people are meant to do about this sort of thing. Again, Pharaoh's is kind of reasonable when you broke it for 4 credits with Paperclip. 4 credits. But now we're going to break this for 7. The people who want Glacier to be good, okay, ban Cleaver, Monkey Paw Curls. Eric, I'm very much a Monkey Paw Curls person. Like, I genuinely do think that without Turbine, I might want Turbine back. Because I honestly like the world in which Hyper Glacier is less good than the one where Turbine is powerful. I think I'd rather have the Turbine be powerful world. And that's just because I just don't like Hyper Glacier. But I'm very aware of the Monkey's Paw on this one. And I just want to state that I'm concerned that like barriers.deck is a real deck. Pressure Spike meta incoming, but Pressure Spike doesn't do enough. Pressure Spike is only relevant on Threat 4, and Threat 4 is like the silliest thing that you want to be playing against like big 5-3 Weyland Glacier. It makes no sense. I'm being here full sicko about this. I'm a Hyper Glacier fan, yeah. No, I hear you. Some people are gonna be really excited about it, but I'm pretty concerned that like the barriers just look so good right now. Right? Like, what's the firewall equivalent in Netrunner right now? Banner through it? Yeah, they just have to advance it. Like, you don't have any meaningful way in standard to convert your remote strength into central defense. Doesn't the runner just shrug at your big remote and pivot to smoking you on centrals? Yeah, probably. I need a new strategy against Glacier from elevation. I'm not sure Game Dragon will be enough. I hate matchups that I just lose. I don't think you'll just lose. I do think there might be concerns that icing up everything is difficult, but I am worried that at this point the barriers might be too strong. Who knows? Without board control, Biovault, and Egg Infusion, you can also just spend 3 clicks to deal with Brawn. I think it's going to be harder than that. I think for the first turn Brawn, you can click through it for sure. If that's the case, you're going to run into some MICs over and over again. That's also going to catch you off guard. The fact that we're playing a 50-50 between run on first click and get through Brawn and run on first click and lose everything to MIC is going to be a bit frustrating, I imagine. Poison Vial, I think Poison Vial definitely helps with Brawn, but it doesn't actually help with all the other stuff, where Poison Vial saves you 2 credits, probably. Big ice should be pricey to break. I agree with that, Dungeons, but I think the problem is like, what's the least interesting design type of ice in the history of Netrunner? It's barriers. Like, the meta where barriers are good, and I'm picking maybe a very cherry-picked example, is usually the least interesting format for the game. Again, I'm not saying we're there. I'm just highlighting some concerns to keep in mind when you see the new set. But like, the double end the run Hadrian's Wall being 7+ strength does not make the game more interesting. It's a lot more interesting where the right play is fire through the Anansi and don't give a shit. Right? Like, that's interesting. that actually gives you ideas and things you can do that you can play around this card. Nazi's obviously going at the same time, but I think the format where the big things are more like this, as opposed to just like the silly end the wall on end the run on a stick. Barriers being the most interesting or most powerful ice in Netrunner is generally the less interesting Netrunner. Classically, when code gates are the biggest or when sentries are the biggest, that's usually when Netrunner gets a bit more interesting, right? Like you can't just send it through a trebuchet, and there's ways that you can deal with this. Maybe they trash the good thing. Maybe you can beat the trace, but there's very few barriers that actually cause interesting interactions. They usually just say, I'm going to end the run. So that's what I worry about. It's like, it's fine, but strange, interesting. Just run 9 fractors, stake a dog meta. I think the arms race has gone too far, starting with banning Cleaver Turbine and then ban barriers, that they are too good. Yeah, we'll probably shoot back and forth to some extent. Minus the charm, yes, I do think Devil Charm is going to be really good. I do think Ice Destruction is just going to be really good, and it's going to be the one thing keeping this in check. And if it's keeping it in check by just having like a very feels bad matchup on one side of the table, that means maybe we hit 50% balance, but that's obviously not what NSG wants, and they'll step in and change something. Ban Vizarum, then I'll stop playing only barriers. Show me someone playing Vizarum in 2025. It just hasn't happened a lot. It might come back though. Hey Pinnacle, how's it going? Jinteki Sentries, Weyland Barriers, and HB non-code gates all seem cracked in the new meta. We lose Gatekeeper, so I'm not sure. I think the only non-code gate, the only code gate HB has is, oh, non-code gate, excuse me. Hey Jello, how's it going? One thing we haven't seen that I think will say a lot, what will the AI of the set look like if there is one? Yeah, maybe. I don't know, honestly, if we will. Maybe we could. I don't see why we wouldn't need to, but there's a chance that all you have is Mayfly, right? Yeah, we're talking about the ban list. Now, my last point to talk about the ban list that didn't come up on the ban list, and I'm surprised, and I didn't mention this in the video, that didn't come up in testing or in conversations, is what was going on with Hoshiko. I was really expecting Hoshiko to maybe catch a ban. I think there's a chance that banning Hoshiko is one of the best things NSG can do to make the upcoming whatever if we're seeing multiple anarchs, or I'm still not sure if it's multiple identities or not, but oh, front and back buttons, that's cool. Ooh, that's really cool. But like, I think one of the most interesting things you can do for upcoming anarchs is ban Hoshiko. I think it's really hard to design an anarch that's going to be as good and as flexible as Hoshiko. I think there's a chance if you ban Hoshiko, you can unban DreamNet, and I think a lot of people would like that. It seems like there's a lot of run-based support in the upcoming set, and so having a payoff for everyone to be running is probably good and fun. But I don't think you can unban DreamNet with Hoshiko, and I'm imagining we need to do something about Hoshiko sooner than later. I will be pretty disappointed if come the set release, Hoshiko is still the best anarch, and it's hard to imagine that not being the case. If you ban Hosh, you have to ban Lad on principle, though. Maybe. There's a chance, but I think Shaper, I don't know. Maybe you can do somewhere interesting on both sides. Sable would appreciate DreamNet unban. Jeffrey, everybody would, I think. Criminals would. Anarchs would. It's fine. Everyone would. It's just very, very playable. Just wait until the next max reprint. I'm not even convinced. I don't know. Just play Lou and trash every turn. Much better. It's hard. We don't have an imp anymore. We also have like some generic purge effects. Hey, Milanomi, this being designed to be used with SG means it doesn't need to have an AI. It's Mayfly is good enough. Yeah, exactly. I think Mayfly is good enough for SG. Like Val was just that for a long time and it was never banned, right? No, but like for what it's worth, I think Valencia might have been a bit of a mistake. Val was never banned, but Val was like also like not always the right thing to play. It was usually between Valencia and Wizard. It was up to you to figure out which one of the two same flavors of ice cream you wanted a bit better. That being said, Valencia did have blackmail, and like this did get banned if I'm not mistaken. And this was like, oh my God, there's footage of me on this channel losing terribly. This never got banned too. Yeah. Play verbal plasticity instead of DreamNet / joke. I think it might be better to just make more support for build around anarchs to make them more efficient than Hosh. Yes, and that's the thing is like we're assuming that if there is an identity or identities coming out in the new set, if they're just generic abilities, like or their support cards are generically playable, you can play them in Hosh and they'd probably be better. I think that's like a problem we've been running into, is like a lot of the cards that seem to be specifically Seb cards are very quite playable in Hosh. And it's not very clear if Seb is the best thing that Seb does, or can you play the best Seb cards in Hosh and Hosh does it better, right? Like Eye for an Eye seems to be better in Hosh. Aquaceres Crew seems to be better in Hosh. And so it's very difficult to design an identity that doesn't get just pigeonholed to playing a small subsection of cards, while otherwise those, like, you know what I mean? It's really, really hard. It's very tricky. So I'm interested with that, but I'm surprised that conversation didn't come up at all, because I think there's a chance that that has to be talked about. It's also possibly playtesting couldn't get the density of games to see if Hosh will crowd out the new Anarch. I have no doubt that they have the density of playtesting. I think the playtesting for the set's been in playtesting for a really long time. And from what we've seen from the cards so far, like it looks like the playtesting has paid off for sure. Maybe you have to wait for tournament data. Yeah, for sure. If tournament data comes out and like, well, that's the thing, is like oftentimes the early tournament data is like not super useful. Like say that there's a big event on the first weekend or whatever. They do their AMT the day after legality, and then like Hosh wins that event. They can't look at that and say like, oh, new Anarch is bad. It's just like, oh, new Anarch is not Hosh. Hosh is very easily playable. We'll wait a couple months to see if new Anarch actually does something. Because you don't expect your new identities to like pop off all the time on the first tournament. Sometimes they do too, to some extent, because people don't know how to play against them and they get blown out by like not icing archives to privileged access, or, you know, getting trick shotted too hard. So it's a mixed bag. It's like early results probably won't shift the needle unless it's like, oh, tributaries making criminal unplayable. Maybe it's because the other Anarch IDs are too narrow without knowing the new Anarch ID in EV. Yeah, I'm assuming that means that they are like weird build around identities. For what it's worth, like the Anarch card pool of identity is like very, very strange right now. It's like Hoshiko is by far generalist. Essa is Essa, which is fine. And I think that's a thing that people were mentioning in chat that is worth mentioning. If the barriers do get out of line, like Begamot does do something. I'm a bit scared to play Begamot, mind you, if I have low hand size. We're going to talk about one of the upcoming Weyland cards, but there is some play to that. I read the first couple chapters of this book just yesterday. It's interesting. Yeah. And then like Seb, hard to tell what Seb is capable of. Metas really depend on Seb, and Seb is leaving some card support, probably going to get some card support. Yeah, it's weird. It's like Hoshiko's doing a lot of heavy lifting because some of the Anarch IDs from System Update are like, out of the Anarch IDs that are rotating, it's Alice Merchant, it is Nat, it is Reina Roja, and it's Quetzal. Which like those IDs are sometimes doing something, but they're not like powerhouse IDs that Hoshiko's competing with, is all I'm saying. There are books. Yeah, there is a book that Begamot comes from. It's from old Russian literature from 50 years ago. Measured response, super modernism heads are so back. Let's talk about that. So this article dropped yesterday. Safer wrote this. Safer might still be in chat. I think we're just going to read through it because I love these articles. This is the sort of article that goes through like design and playtesting and talks about changes to, and Freedom. Oh, I missed Freedom. Sorry. Freedom is huge. Yeah, Freedom is the one ID that actually is doing something a bit different. Yeah, shout out to Freedom for sure. I like these articles. I feel like the last time we got one of these articles was many, many moons ago, and it shows you a bit about the sort of like development and all the work that goes behind the scenes. It shows you what works, what doesn't work, what people liked, and I just like these a lot. I remember one of the last articles it feels like we had was like the Mirror Morph article, talking about how Mirror Morph ended up with its text. That was a bit of both testing, but also a bit of like getting words to make sense is kind of hard. So let's read through it. Measure response, a tale from elevation development from Safer. This was posted last week. I've always loved card games. I've collected Pokemon cards as a kid, dueled with Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters in my middle school classrooms, and dabbled in competitive Magic in college. I first encountered Netrunner in 2014 when I walked into a board game cafe hosting their bi-weekly meetup. The players were welcoming, but the gameplay was alien. I borrowed a rule book and 45 minutes later was handled a Weyland deck featuring Scorched Earth. For those who are not familiar, it's end of the line, but it doesn't remove the tag. And we'll just read the flavor text because it'll be relevant. I'd like to remind the ladies and gentlemen of the press that several of the buildings damaged in the blast were owned by Weyland Consortium subsidiaries. Mind you, if the runner's tag do formate damage. This was the strongest Weyland card in all of the original core set, and this was the way that Weyland was winning events, and NBN was winning events to some extent for the first couple of years of the game, where you just gave the runner a single tag and then played Scorched Earth that did 8 damage. That was going to kill them. Through the lens of competitive Magic player, I read Scorched Earth as a souped-up mind rot. I built a game plan around landing a Scorcher, thinking that if I managed to resolve just one Scorched, I could win the game through card advantage. That's really cool to shut that out. So I don't know what Mind Rot is. I think it's players losing cards. Mind you, card draw in Magic the Gathering is much more limited than Netrunner. But the idea is that the Tempo Scorch does exist in Netrunner, but it's not a game-winning play. It's something that you do in an awkward board state. But the idea is that if the runner has one card in hand and you have 5, you don't just win the game by having card advantage. The game works very different than Magic. It's a very, very cool part about this game. My opponent ended an aggressive turn with 4 cards in hand while I had a full HQ. I used all of my credits to play Sea Source into 1x Scorched Earth. Sea Source, it's a public trail, but instead of doing 8 credits, you do a trace. So if you have more money, they'll have a tag. That's all that matters here. Leaving them with 0 cards. Got him, I thought to myself. On their turn, my opponent clicked to draw 4 times in a row and calmly passed the turn back to me. They had the same board state, credits, and cards in hands as the previous turn, while I spent my next turn struggling to recover my economy. In that moment of realization, I fell in love with Netrunner. Toto, we aren't walking the plains of Magic anymore. That's a really cool story, and I think that's like, I don't play a lot of Magic, but understanding how different this game is than some of the most common card games is like very, very notable. And that's the sort of story that sticks with you. For my own example, I died to Sea Sword Scorched in CI on like turn 3 when I first went out to play with nice people, and those people are still my friends. Diesel, very illegal in most MTG formats? I guess so, huh? 0 hand size Essa can get through 10 strength Pharaohs, yeah, but dies to Mavirus. The Dawning of Vendetta. Elevation marks the largest rotation in Netrunner's history. We say goodbye to 391 cards, and while not all saw regular standard play, and that's a big sentence, mind you, the majority of these 391 cards saw no consistent competitive play in any format. FFG cards are not like NSG cards. NSG has like I think a 4 out of 5 competitive play watermark hit, while FFG has about I would say 1 in 5, maybe 2 in 5, probably 1 in 5. So when you see this number, it's actually nowhere near as big as you think it is, but the cards that do lose or leave are very, very important, the ones that do see play. Corporations were especially reliant on the power and flexibility of these rotating cards. For every change we made, we had to balance the competing priorities of the standard and core set formats, while replacing the foundational staples found in System Update 2021. I think people were asking what the format is meant to be called with System Gateway and Elevation, and it looks like core set is what NSG has been calling it. Each card needed to be as concise and elegant as possible while promoting novel gameplay for every player, whether they've been playing for 10 days, 10 months, or 10 years. I found like a 50-ish% hit rate on a would consider playing it some of the time a very low bar. I actually did Trash or Bust on rotated cards at the beginning of playtesting. You found like a 50%-ish hit rate on would consider playing it at some time? I think the last time I did it, I was getting like 20 out of 120 for a cycle. That's rough. Elevation was designed to pair with System Gateway and create new and exciting staples for each faction. Gateway is an amazing product, but with only 7 non-identity cards per corp faction, it only represents a fraction of each faction's ethos. Notably, Weyland is missing cards that represent their well-established habit of murdering impudent runners. The modern equivalent to Scorched Earth and Align was printed in Parhelion, and Punitive Counter-Strike was also leaving standard, so we were presented with a clear opportunity to create a new modern murder classic in Elevation. That is a big idea. The idea that Scorched Earth was in the core set and was in every single core set actually wasn't in revised core set. The fuck? I guess that makes sense. We saw alternate versions of this. But this is like the sort of card that when you open the core set in 2012, you're like, oh, I understand what Weyland is. And for what it's worth, when you pick up System Gateway, you have Clearinghouse, but you don't get the sort of like, oh, we've torched a city block to deal with one person we don't like, which is like very key to the way that Weyland works. I also don't know if the art exactly gets through that. Like Malapert Data Vault, I don't think is a very strong show of what Weyland's about in terms of like the art or theme, but the Malapert Data Vault's equivalent was gun to head of man at desk. And again, when you open up the 2012 core set, you really did understand what was going on. And I think having a card like that in Elevation is incredibly important. Of course it does. In late 2023, the design team started exploring different ideas for a new take on Punitive. They shared some initial concepts, looking to get feedback from Punitive enthusiasts across FFG and playtest servers. One comment that stuck with me throughout the development was from an anonymous member of the Standard Balance team. They identified 2 issues with Punitive Counter-Strike's impact on gameplay. 1. Punitive rewards sitting back on piles of credits, promoting a defensive and slow playstyle. Yeah. 2. Punitive punishes low-impact central runs, promoting passivity for the runner. Yes. That is, I think, a very well-worded criticism of Punitive. It is very rare that you play against an aggressive Punitive deck that is rushing and uses Punitive as a punishment. You generally play against Turtle you play against a massive siege engine, slow, punitive will kill you if you step out of line, try not to play the game. Several more conversations spun out of these threads, exploring what people did and did not like about punitive over its decade of play. On the 15th of April 2024, that's a year ago, the development team released version 1 of the set codenamed Dawn to playtesters, including the first take on a card that would become Measured Response, then known as Vendetta. April 15th, 2024, Weyland Operation Black Ops, cost 5, influence 2? Play only if the runner stole and installed agenda last turn. Do 4 meat damage. The runner may pay 5 credits to prevent 2 of that damage. That means, if you have 3 of these, if the runner stole and installed the agenda, you can just do 6 meat damage, right? Doesn't matter how much money the runner has. They always have to have at least like 10 credits to not die to 2 of these. But if they have infinite credits, 3 of these kills them. Interesting. The development team was excited for this new direction for a punitive-inspired card, as it addressed both the above issues. The installed agenda clause prevents abrupt game-ending central runs. I think that's a really cool clause. Installed agendas forces about table play, but you still lose on centrals, while setting specific credit costs reduces the focus on slow credit accumulation. However, initial playtest feedback was muted. The card didn't provoke strong reactions and rarely came up in conversations. The only recurring complaints were that it didn't feel fair to die to 3 copies of Vendetta, independent of how many credits you had as a runner. I totally believe that. I also think cards like this, not a lot of people are fast to play them, because it's the sort of card that only does something when you have 3 of the same combo card in hand, and those don't happen a lot. Like, I think a lot of players look at that to be like, that's too much work, I'm not going to pursue it. It's funny that back in the day we could have 1 Sea Source, 2 Scorched Earth, and now it's consistent. But it feels like having a 3 card combo in hand is very, very, very hard. And I wonder without Rashida if it's going to be even harder. The Cleaners is such a great Marie Kondo faction card. It's really quite nice. It can take months to properly evaluate whether a sense of fairness is an underlying issue of the card itself, or if it's representative of a larger issue in the ecosystem. The context of the surrounding card pool determines how you evaluate individual cards, and more than half of our context was rotating. So we stuck to a systematic approach to refine the set through incremental improvements. With each new playtest release, we got a better grasp on the NSG-only ecosystem and began pinpointing the source of these gameplay issues. Advancing our agenda. During the first 5 months of development, we released 9 major updates for playtesting, each one updating over half of the elevation cards. In version 4, which came out June 15th, 2024, it's a good year, a lot of sun, we reshaped all of the ice in the set, changing subtype, cost, and strength distributions. By our 7th version release, August 1st, 2024, we locked in the mechanical themes for all identities, reworking 7 identities in the process, including the Weyland identity design to play with Vendetta. Oh, I gotta not forget to say this. Is it here? It is. I am so worried about Weyland Ice in this upcoming set. Oh my god, I'm so worried about it. We got to come back to it. But like, how much ice do you expect there to be in the set? We've seen Shylendra. We've seen that other Weyland barrier that's going to see no play. And then we've seen a 14 cost ice. What the fuck is going on? Weyland is so cooked. Comeback cards like Vendetta should not be able to end the game immediately, but give advantage? Maybe. No ice wall? No, that card is meant to be your ice wall. It's not here for some reason. Like, how many ice do we expect for each faction? Shylendra is like both busted and like advanceable ice cringe. Then we have Kesselroyd, which is it's a bit better without Cleaver, but not great. And then we have a 14 cost ice. How are you meant to play Weyland? Oh my god. Help. Sorry, get back to it. At the tail end of August, Vendetta came up as card of the day for discussion in the playtest server. That's a really cool thing to do. The sentiment from playtesters was clear. Vendetta was failing to live up to his potential. To land a kill, Vendetta asked the corp to meet a lot of requirements, while the runner had many options to circumvent Vendetta, either via credits or by hammering centrals. We'll have Afshar? Yeah, but like, imagine you're playing, I don't know. You have Afshar, you have like Winchester, you have options, but like, oh no. Fortunately, Ob has our backs. Our 9th version release of September 12th, 2024 was significant for a couple reasons. We began locking in mechanical roles for as many cards as possible for the narrative and visual teams to ramp up their work. That's a really interesting thing too, to understand how the pipeline works, that at some point the theme of cards or the mechanical like overarching ideas of cards have to be locked in, just so like our team can move forward and do stuff. Up until this point, we have shifted the roles of 20 non-identity cards in the set, and it was time to stabilize the card slots. The idea with card slots is, all right, like we need X amount of Weyland Ice. We want a Weyland kill card that works with Modernism. That's always a cool thing. I don't think we're ever going to see it, but to see the release document after to be like, this is what our like breakdown of the set was meant to be. I think that's kind of cool. Oh, link the spreadsheet. I haven't seen it. What spreadsheet? I don't know a spreadsheet. This release was also the first one of our 3 new team members contributed to, and after 5 months of playtesting, Vendetta saw its first change. All right, costs a bit more influence, cost less, cost 2. Play only the runner stolen an advanced agenda during their last turn, so it doesn't have to be, it has to be installed, but also have to be advanced. The runner loses 4 credits, do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 4 credits. So that divides the numbers. So the runner still needs to have 8 credits because this happens first, and it does 4 meat damage to them. Interesting. Seeing a Netrunner set design skeleton would be amazing. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. With some fresh perspectives added to the mix, we brainstormed this version after taking some inspiration from another iconic Weyland card, Economic Warfare. Economic Warfare is a 0-cost card that just says play if they've made a successful run last turn. They lose 4 credits if able. The text here is technically has if able spelled out a bit more obviously. But this card was important, mind you, in Modernism decks. This card also was a bit toxic back in the day because there was like really strong punishments for running that cared about credit differentials as soon as turn 1. Those don't exist anymore, and Economic Warfare doesn't see a lot of play in Standard as much as it is Standard legal. This card seems like it actually would be quite playable with the final version of Measured Response. Besides being absolutely busted due to overtuned numbers, the shape of this affected some generic design issues that came up quickly once it hit testing. The credit thresholds runner had to reach to survive multiple copies were unintuitive. The card lost focus by trying to do multiple things. Was it a tempo tool or a self-contained kill card? This to me reads like a tempo tool, where it's like you're going to lose 4 credits no matter what, and then you have to decide whether you're going to lose 4 more credits or whether you're going to take 4 meat damage. And then technically, yeah, the math here is tricky, where like if you take the first one, you can take 4 meat damage, and then when the second one comes through, if you're going to expect to lose the 4 credits on the first part of the subroutine or the first part of the operation text, you might as well lose the 4 credits here, right? Like very kind of weird. That I could see how the math is being unintuitive for this, because there's like a couple play patterns that have like very distinct when you should pay on the first one versus the second one. So this is what came up with October 16th, 2024. Cost 3, influence 4. Play only if the runner stole an advanced agenda during their last turn. Do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 8 credits. This is very close to what we have, right? Does the last one say advanced on it? I don't think it does. Do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 8. It's weird how like as things get more and more simple, they get more and more elegant, and I think people can understand what this wants to do to you. The fact that the pays 8 credits is now like a breakpoint we see on a couple pieces, a couple cards. So like we see this obviously on Public Trail as well. So having 8 credits is just like a good place to be against Weyland Kill. With the next version release, we streamlined the design again, keeping the advanced agenda clause as a way to have a linear upfront requirement and reducing the scaling cost for multiple copies. We continued to try to nudge this design into place by adjusting the play and credit prevention costs on the next 4 versions released throughout November and December. I think 8 is just so easy for this card for you to remember, considering 8 is something you remember in general. The cost does go up though. On to early 2025, with 8 months to playtest experience, we were finally able to vocalize Vendetta's fundamental issues that had been present since version 1. Vendetta has the explicit requirement that you install and now advance an agenda, and have that agenda get stolen, but also the implicit requirement that you have 2 or 3 copies of it in the hand to get the kill. This much set up at the top of the hefty credit cost was not worth the hassle unless you were guaranteed to kill. The corp identifiers that can place an advancement counter without a credit or click investment, most notably Pravdavost, had become the only homes for Vendetta, removing any nuance or counterplay. There were no numerical values that would allow this design to thread the needle and feel balanced. Interesting. That is the thing with like this sort of card design, is understanding when you should play it for tempo and understanding when you should keep it in hand. For some extent, punitive, you rarely play punitive on tempo unless you have the third one and you don't think it matters and you're going to make a push right away. That's an interesting conclusion to come up with. Worst of all, Vendetta had failed to create its own archetypes in Weyland and live up to the iconic faction-defining gameplay of punitive. But we now understood that this issue lay in the restrictive play conditioning. On the 6th of January 2025, it's very clear that you tell people where you were on that date. We tried a big change at the same time as narrative gave the card its final name, Measured Response. Good name, Double? Cost nothing though, influence 3. Play only if the runner stole their trash to corp card during their last turn. As an additional cost, spend a click, it's a double. Do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 6. Now, clearly this being a double means that you can't flatline to this because it's impossible for them to play 2 of them unless they play Biotic. And then this credit threshold goes down a bit, but so does this credit threshold. While the push numbers made the card far too strong, it also shifted the card's role to a tempo tool, leaving the idea of being a kill card as being a pipe dream. Yeah, this just becomes a double that says the opponent loses 6. That's wild. Our goal for this slot was to make sure Weyland had baseline damage kill card in the core set, so while this version was worth playing, it still wasn't living up to our good design goals. With our development deadline now just 1 month away, we considered whether End of Line could fit into the set. No one was satisfied with the idea, but we couldn't delay the whole set for this card. One last shot, don't miss. Weyland meat damage without tracer tags finally have been waiting 8 years. Yeah, I guess this is the first one, huh? Well, clearinghouse. And there has to be one more. Where's the nano management sticker packs in the lab? Just have flashbacks of Econ Warfare HHN. It was really, really, really bad. Endgame. Testing the January 6th version gave us invaluable insight into what happens when the runner faced retribution each and every turn they interacted with the corp. It felt suffocating. This is kind of like, you know, the hard-hitting news problem is anytime that you run or trash something, you have to deal with this coming in that they pay for 2 clicks and no cost, but either lose your whole hand or pay 6 credits. This probably will never kill someone unless they have no cards in hand, but it's just basically saying I will pay a tax over and over and over again. It doesn't build the exciting forks. It just feels like a bit of a grind. I could see that. While we clearly swung the pendulum too hard, this experiment reaffirmed that the emotional stakes of the play experience of the card were dictated by the play condition. The window you have to play the card determines the emotions the card evokes. The stolen advanced agenda cause looked like a great fit for Weyland on service, but in play it asks Weyland to set up a trap. They're spending resources proactively to bait in the runner. While discussing the state of Weyland with a playtester, they shared a perspective that really resonated with me. Weyland aren't the faction that goes out of the way to kill you. They build walls to keep you out. If you overstep, they will turn their attention to you and reply with a measured response. It's just business. That's a really cool sentence, right? Like the advanced card makes a fair bit of sense. I do think there is some bravado to Weyland advancing their cards publicly, right? The idea that I can install advance in Oaktown and not ice it means like if you touch it, I'll mid-seasons you. That does feel very Weyland. But it's not so much about them setting up a trap as much as it's, I'm doing business. If you choose to touch this, the problem is going to be on you. And I think that's a very good quote to establish what the sort of tone should be here. If you overstep, you die. This became the new version for this card. Over the course of 48 hours, I went through 10 different iterations, rapidly prototyping. I posted my findings within our internal dev channel, and it spawned the single longest thread we've had to date. There were over 500 messages in that 48-hour window. On the 14th of January, we shared an early preview of a new measured response to playtest to get impressions and have people start testing it. The card we locked in as the final version just 6 weeks later was almost identical. I'm thrilled to share my new iconic Weyland kill card, measured response. So we get a card art here. It is trashable, which I don't think actually showed up on any of these cards before. That's an easy thing to miss as an operation. Cost 3 to trash. Cost 5, which is expensive, which means that money is going to be rate limiting. If you go too fast, you won't have money to play 2 of these, and you need to. Play only if the threat level is 4 or greater, and only if the runner made a successful run during their last turn. Threat level 4 on this card is sick. I think one of the big problems with Punitive is people are dying on click 1, dirty laundering archives. This won't happen again unless you do steal 6 points of agendas, but at least then this doesn't scale with 6 points versus any other amount of agendas. Do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 8. Again, so that means the corporation needs 10 credits for this to be a potential kill. If you have 5 cards in hand, you need to have at least 8 credits. And even then there will be a scoring window for sure. The flavor text says, we would like to reassure shareholders that none of the buildings damaged in the blast were owned by Weyland Consortium subsidiaries. From Luana Campos, which I'm not sure if that's a new name or not, but for influence, very, very similar to some of the previous cards. It's also a trashable card, and honestly, with the threat 4 text, if I find this in HQ on turn 1, I probably won't trash it, and I'll just hope that at some point this will matter, and I'll trash it then. Yeah, the flavor text is really fun. I'm very glad this isn't the same format as Bacterial. I do think that this will have implications outside of Weyland. I think this as a one-of splashable in any PE deck, or sorry, Jinteki deck that cares about damage is just going to be a hard thing to catch people off guard. The fact that this is a kill damage card set up in a single card means that on any board state, if we're on threat 4, if the runner now has 3 cards in hand, they also have to keep their credits up. It is 4 influence, and I do think one card that works really well with this is Pivot, and that's because this isn't a double. So if you play Pivot, which is another trashable, you can always do Pivot into, you can play 1 copy from your hand and you can pivot into the second copy, which means maybe you can play fewer copies, I'm not sure, but adding an extra credit to that should not hit the breakpoint. That was a really big deal that if this is a double, it's hard to pivot for 2 of them, but now you can actually pivot for both of them. Imagine they reprint Argus. Yeah, if they reprint Argus, like, this becomes a bit scarier because then the 2 card choice is not as, like, generally whenever you played against Argus, you would just take 2 meat damage because the tag is a click and 2 credits and meat damage is like whatever. You can just draw cards. But if they do that, obviously this gets a lot better. That's for sure. Holding on to 8 credits all game can be tricky for a runner, but it's not holding on to 8 credits. It's also holding on to 5 cards. Like, you only have to do one of the 2. You either have to hold on to enough cards, and mind you, 4 cards is enough to hold on to, so you can only hold on to 4 cards. It's the same thing with C source into, Public Transit End of Line. If you have 4 cards, it's hard. Now, if you have 4 cards, they could always do like Angelique from hand into measured response, and that could flatline you for sure. Angelique measured response is also a problem, but that is a lot of setup, and all those cards are trashable. So play only if you're on threat 4, and if you have a bunch of money, and if the runner does not, and if they don't trash it, and if you have multiple copies. Yes, there's a lot of ways that this will not work out directly. I think you have to care about cards in hand. So obviously, like an Argus-like ability, I think Argus Security also might make some amount of sense, or not Argus Security, Argus Crackdown can like easily make some sense here, because this will ensure that the runner has fewer cards in hand. But there's a lot of ways that players can play around this, and it's trashable. So I don't think this is like busted, but I do think this is a card you are going to have to learn exists, because you will lose the game to it. Jared, can't recall what threat level means. Threat level is basically if somebody has at least that many points in their score area. So threat first showed up in the Liberation cycle. So if you only have System Gateway, you don't know about it. It's notable that the way this is worded is different than most other threat level text. Most other cards have like threat 4 in bold and then an arrow. But because of the additional cost or playability of this card, it needs to be worded strangely. But threat level means that it only will be a relevant card if someone has at least 4 points in their score area, which doesn't line up well with 3-pointers. I do think this lines up better with the deck that's running as many 2-pointers as you can play and just always jamming things. The play pattern here is Alex 2x measured response for a kill, and I agree, that is the play pattern. But if that's the case, they need 10 credits, and you can trash 1 of their copies of it. Seems reasonable. What do you think about the art? It's strange. I've seen some pretty long conversations about the art. Anna Butova, I think, has done art before, if I'm not mistaken. This looks like a bird exploded. I think it's really hard to get away with that. Obviously, it's not meant to be feathers, but I see just so many feathers here. I know folks were kind of joking about that baseball player who unfortunately hit a bird with a baseball during an MLB game, and the bird exploded. It kind of looks like that. I'm not 100% sure on the framing what I'm meant to be looking at. I think this was a bigger art and it might have been cropped for this. This explosion seems to be coming from this apartment, but where the explosion is, it looks actually a lot closer than the apartment that's in the background. So I first looked at it and thought a car exploded. This is clearly meant to be the person who's behind the explosion, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me for Weyland. I'm assuming they would like do something from the distance, getting this close, and then the car being totally still too, I think robs a bit of movement from this. It's strange. It is definitely strange. I think this art has to be like, this is going to be a pretty, big card for the set, but I don't know if it's my favorite art. The uncropped art is at the top. Yeah, I think I've seen the uncropped art. I think the uncropped art is I think does the art better. I think the crop is not my favorite crop. Yeah, like this is a bit better. Still here, it's not obvious what the focus of the shot is. Like, is it meant to be this person? Is it meant to be the explosion? This like focuses dead on the person itself, and then the explosion is kind of meant to be secondary. So I don't know. I don't think it's my favorite art in the set. It does look like a bird exploded though. Looks to me like a Weyland card that goes into a deck that wants to play Honest Netrunner, but has a plan B for when the runner gets tempo. I wouldn't go that far. I think you need to play slightly less Honest. Like, I think you do want to play a bit of damage. Like, I do think you'll play Angelique in either in the remote server or not, because you need to force the runner to keep up to your speed, and you need to catch them. Like, this is a deck that would play Snare if Snare existed, which we obviously lose Snare. Shockingly common stable card next explosion. Yeah, I think that's the thing that got me, is that like this art lacks motion. I think this art needs a lot more motion to it. Right? Like this can be compared to another card very easily, and the amount of, not this one, right? It just seems like very still compared to this, which like screams that everything is moving, right? Like you have the blast lines and the motion, and like clearly this is a bit obviously macabre, but bird UAV bomb. Yeah, Traffic Accident is peak. Yeah, it's a really good card. It's meant to be reminiscent of this, but this just seems like the explosion is doing a lot more damage. You see the car, you don't know where the explosion came from. I'm assuming drones, but it's different. It's scorched earth from a different POV outside the hover car. Oh, like the person looking through the window? Yeah, I guess so, but this seems really close to explosion. I don't know. What a time to get a call safer. You missed it all. Urban Renewal was really good for something like this too. I forget what the Urban Renewal art looked like. The Urban Renewal that has a fin on it is also it's basically this. Two people looking out of a window. It's Lizzie Mills and Bridgman. But Urban Renewal also, like, yeah. This is, you can't tell how big the building is, but those are really big explosions. Hey, Kraken, hello from South Africa. Nice to be able to catch a live stream at a reasonable time. Hey, welcome to the stream. What I miss? I don't know. We read the whole document. Snare is one of the best A&R cards, Rip, yeah. It's a card that we probably can expect something like that. Mind you, it's been in Netrunner since 1996, and having an on-axis ambush that is relevant, whether it'll do tags and damage, like, you could argue away. As much as NSG seems to love tags in Jinteki, which, like, I don't think I've liked how that has landed. Yeah. Measure response is toxic. I don't think this is toxic. How's it going, Ken, yet? I think there's a lot of ways that you can outplay this. I don't think it's going to be grindery. I think the trash cost is, like, very reasonable. Is this why I want to play New Vank? Probably not, but it helps that it's 2 credits cheaper, I guess. Lends credence to the bird theory. Yeah, I do think you're going to see this in, like, Jinteki decks if they care about damage. Are you going to see this in false lead decks? Maybe. I think there's a chance that you can always pop a false lead if they have 2 clicks left and they've taken some damage and they've made a successful run. I think false lead measured response is also a thing they have to worry about. But if that's the case, just have 8 credits. Like, this forces the corporation to, you know, lead the dance and be the beatdown, and it forces you to have to miss one of these 3 triggers, either trashing this, having 4 cards in hand, or 5 if you play against double measured is going to be a problem, but into Angelique, and or have 8 credits. So it's up to them to go fast. Mechanically measured response uses one of our new evergreen mechanics, threat, as a play condition to allow the tension of the game to ramp up naturally. As the threat level increases, both players start planning and anticipating when the threshold will be passed. Then when the threat level hits 4, the dynamic of the game changes. I do like that you don't have to be worried on turn 1. You'll probably access this sooner than later. I will not trash it on turn 1. I'll be like, I'll wait for threat 4 to matter. Then the dynamic changes. The runner is forced to reevaluate their resources each time they interact with the corpse board, and the corpse resources also take on new importance. Securing a kill with measure response can be expensive, both because of the hefty play cost and the need to defend the card while it waits an HQ for the runner to overstep. Yes, there's a lot of ways to deal with it. 10 credits if you want to play 2 of them is very expensive, and that has to be on a board state too after they res ice and do all that other sort of stuff. The combination of play condition entirely avoids the issue of dying early game to inopportune access off of a central server. It can turn on very quickly with a couple of lucky accesses, but if that happens before the runner has invested time into their own game plan, that sounds like a perfect representation of overstepping to me. Run archives turn 1s against Nuvem, steal 4 points, die. Like, that can still happen for what it's worth. Yeah, Reaper function measure response is interesting. I think Reaper function is another card that really does matter for this context. Even like keeping an agenda on the table and, oh, there's no PE, excuse me. But like, yeah, Reaper function is going to get cards out of hand guaranteed. As much as there's still Onacomp and Lat and Stone Chip and all that other sort of stuff. Requiring both the threat level to be a 4 and a successful run changes how measured response wants to be used in comparison to punitive. Instead of sitting back and feeding agendas, you need to work best when the corp is accelerating the pace of the game. There's a chance you'll get 3 measured response in a turn. I think you only need to take 2. It's going to be hard to survive 2, but you can. If that's the case, though, like, I don't know if we're going to see Hyper Glacier, because Hyper Glacier doesn't deal with threat 4 well. I think that deck would probably play Clearinghouse. And for what's worth, Clearinghouse into this is also kind of fine. If the runner's on 4 agenda points and the corp's 0, they have control over where they put themselves at risk. And if the corp is at 4 points, they're in the driver's seat, forcing interaction, but threatening to score out. Good old modernism. So happy with how the thematics and mechanics of measure response weave into one another to make this a truly iconic card for Weyland. Even more so, I'm proud, where we landed given all of the competing constraints, ambitious timelines, and sky-high expectations for elevation. Game development is an unusual mix of science and art. How long does a set need to stay in playtesting before it's ready? How many versions does a card need before it's understood? For measured response, it took 5 months of ecosystem correction, another 5 months of exploration, 5-ish days of iteration, and then 5 weeks to balance. Each card in the set has its own story. This one just happens to be a bit more dramatic than most. An immense amount of attention and effort was put into each and every card in the set by all of our product teams, and I'm proud to see the effort reflected in the final product. A lot of work goes behind the scenes. That is 100% for sure. I like to see, the changes over time and the learnings. I find these articles absolutely fascinating. Hey, Izzy, how's it going? I do think that this is going to be a very cool, iconic Weyland card that will give people an understanding of what Weyland wants to do. I think the next card that can do that is the identities. Whether the identities are very mean and killy, I think that will help a lot in elevation as well, because Built to Last, I think, does promote a lot of play to be kind of Glacier-like. BTL Rush hasn't really popped off, but I do think setting the tone for the core set experience and giving people what they expect Weyland to be is really, really, really cool. Best podcast about Netrunner I've heard? Wait, what is? I'll just say that I'm not going to my Grinder PE. Yeah, this you can play this on Grinder for sure. I think there's just some downsides to it. Almost lost me when it veered into children's card game communities, but y'all saved it. What are you talking about, Phil? This is really cool. Shout out to Safer for writing that article. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Other news stuff really quickly. I think I opened a bunch of tabs. There's a recruitment drive. This went up today. I just want to check if we have a new article. I was hoping there'd be a new article this afternoon. Looks like we're not going to get a new card today. Recruitment drive is up. Hey, runners. There's a selection of newly open roles we're currently advertising for. There's a whole bunch, including a lead producer, narrative designer, associate game designer, internal balance team member, marketing graphic designer, associate relationship manager, convention coordinator. A lot of stuff. If you want to get involved in Null Signal Games, you can find links here. Again, it's a volunteer-run organization, and even if you find yourself to be underqualified for any of these positions, if you do apply and you're realistic with what you worry about and some of your skill set and your time, Null Signal Games can get that information and say like, okay, maybe you're not the perfect choice to have this like lead position, but we'd love to have you on some sort of team. Oh, new QTM podcast. I was told about this and I've missed it. It's been a while since QTM put out stuff. Very, very cool. Also, architecture is a better influence for Grinder. Yeah. An opportunity to work with the Patrick Sklar is an opportunity. It is an opportunity, that's for sure. So check that out. If you can check that out. Utati put this up. This is called Net Positive. It's net-positive.glitch.me. I was told about this just earlier this morning. And the idea about this, hold on, we'll refresh it. In the meantime, we can draw. Didn't accidentally draw a wang. That's good. QTM, go. Hey, Changey, how's it going? Give it a second to load. My voice is not holding up. There's no way that this stream is going to be much longer. Apologies for that. So this is basically a little website that you can kind of leave notes. The About section tells it, hi, this is something I put together for the release of Elevation so that people could get good memories about Netrunner cards they like. With that in mind, please be sensible putting stuff here. It's public. Think about how something might feel about what you write if you mentioned them by name. Destroyed Utati with my sick ag confusion play. What a scrab would be a bad thing to write. Try to keep the relevant to the card that you're posting on. This is very much a Web 1.0 spirit. I'm giving you a lot of freedom here, and if you abuse it, you'll take it away with the ability to submit stuff. The short of the long is like, this is just a nice spot where you can highlight a card and you can write a nice little sentence about it. So nobody has talked about Diesel, and if you're sad about missing Diesel, there's a nice spot. You can put it anonymous if you want to just like talk about some of your favorite cards. There's already some nice people here. Ams wrote Spot the Prey. This card, mind you, not a lot of play that this saw, but Spot the Prey is the first card I've ever did an alt art for Project Red Sand, which is the community Red Sand alt art initiative, and was the first step to me becoming a regular alt artist. Signed from Ams. That is so cool. This is really, really sick. Like this a heck of a lot. And so you can go in here, you can actually put in the card itself and bring something up. But if you want to just kind of get a bit of a, that sort of like sign this book at the end of the wedding or whatever, you can celebrate some of the cards that are leaving. I think this is really, really cool. There's something shown in the Eternal Super League Week 9 vid around 1:42:22. Yep, that it is. Hey, Josh, biotech. I would be surprised if there's not a biotech note in here from you. How you doing? Yusengren, hey, remember to tune in Daily Cast tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Oh, I knew I forgot to shout out something. So Daily Cast starts tonight. We shout out the Eternal Super League, mind you. There is a bit of a spoiler in there. We'll talk about it in the near future. But if you want to go over to Yusengren, full album, Daily Cast starts tonight, which will be a recap of all the FFG stuff. Jeff, who are your guests? But this is a thing that Jeff's been doing every spoiler season. It's starting a bit later. And this year, because things are different in the Jeff household, but basically there's a stream every night to go over the spoilers from that day. That's really, really cool. Very cool. Last thing I want to shout out is, oh, well, there it is. I guess this did sneak in here, but Jai's been doing this 82 and 82 where he goes and spends 82 words or less talking about the cards. I found this to be quite nice. Very, very cool. And this was the card. Okay, I guess we'll just show it. This was the card that was spoiled during the, what's it called stream? The ESL stream. It is a functional reprint of Biotic Labor. Same cost, same influence, different flavor text, different art. This is from Alicia Doyley. I think the only art we've seen from Alicia Doyley, they were the artist that did the alt art Brawn. You could get at Worlds from playing in the startup event last year. I like that art a heck of a lot. Alicia, I believe, is from Montreal. I believe Alicia is a local from my parts. But it's just Biotic Labor again, which is probably important. This card is definitely very playable, and it does allow for some like baseline combos that are not super popular, but you can always biotic and score out of 3-2. So baseline there is fine. As one of the few ways you can fast events straight out from hand in the format. When we lost Audacity, we lose Trick of Light, we lose a bunch of other stuff. Back left character looks awesome. Yeah. Is this meant to be Bass Chiriboga? I think on the right that's meant to be Bass Chiriboga, but Bass doesn't have a hat. Tonight is Cranked, Dan, and a newer player, our guest tonight. Oh, sick. Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm not sure why Bass was depicted without a hat. That's pretty wild. But yeah, I'm a very reasonable manager. I did not expect my staff to do anything I could not do, which is funny because that's the text on Bass. No hat is a problem. Well, we have stickers. We can fix this. Yeah, it's cool. So that's definitely one of the HP cards that you can play in the set. You don't wear hats indoors, clearly. Oh, you might be onto something there, actually. Too much class for indoors hat. Not Bass. He needs a hat. So this is not Bass. This is just a different Byroid. It kind of looks like Bass-like. I'm not sure who drew Bass. Ollie did. Yeah, it's like similar-ish. The suit is a bit different, and then the Peruvian hat. But just a Byroid. Oh. Okay. Cool little hat on the card. Yeah, we have those stickers. All right. We're going to roll this wheel. Anybody want to put their bets in? It's 50-50 at this point. This is our wheel of rotation, which is just a very funny name. The more you think about it, we're going to spin the wheel. And then one of these factions will talk about all the cards they lose to rotation. It's honestly the best odds you could guess. Weyland, baby. Okay, let's go. I would rather talk about Weyland. No. HB. Are we going to spin the wheel when there's one left? I'm pretty sure. All right, let me get the string. I forgot to get it. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Where is Lucy? All right, so if you don't know, we've been doing this. That we've been going through Netrunner DB and looking at all the cards that rotate out of standard to see what we think the factions, how they're going to change. The short of the long is that corporations look pretty dire. Obviously, that's what the ban list recently has been set out to do. By faction. So we'll see this. The fact that the colors are wrong kills me. It's so bad, Jeff, and I can't change it. Saving the best for last. We did technically do Weyland off the wheel before, and like Weyland's the most interesting. I think Weyland's probably the corp that falls the highest, the hardest and the highest. So we'll find out. Okay, HB. Let's talk about it. So HB is losing some cards, that's for sure. A bunch of the cards actually really important. I think Weyland does lose, or sorry, HB does lose some agendas. Remote Enforcement is not seeing play. We're playing more ADT, but Project Vitruvius leaving is very sad. All of the 3-2 over advanced agendas are going. I'm assuming there's going to be a 3-2 shaped agenda whole, and I'm assuming we're going to see a bunch of agendas from faction identities, because mind you, if you pick up System Gateway, this is meant to be the core set experience. System Gateway is almost entirely neutral agendas, so if you want to get that flavor to get that deck building options, you're going to see, I assume, 2 or 3 agendas for every faction. Vitruvius is just a really cool nuanced agenda. It's busted. It's good. It's fine. A blank 3-2 apparently was good enough in certain metas, but getting one counter on this like really opens the game up. And I think makes things really, really frustrating, but really, really fun. I'm going to miss the heck out of Vitruvius. There's no way around it. This card is very, very good. Second, Iqua Project. This leaving actually causes a lot of pause, because most Weyland decks that are scoring out like, you know, points are playing 6 points of Iqua Projects and the rest on 2-pointers. And that is just an elegant agenda suite on the basis that, you know, you want to score out of 5-3, so you win in 3 agenda scores. With Iqua going, HB is left with salvo testing, which is not an agenda you put into every deck, and send a message. And I do not know what that means for the identity. There's a chance that you can just run only 4 2s. Maybe you can run 2 1s as well and play Elevagao Bifurcation in standard HB and just have PD fire more than twice before the game is over. I think there's some like reason to do that. But Iqua is just a very, very strong agenda. It works really well with the Ice Suite, like MIC, with Managarm. And it also really frustrates players who don't plan their turn and they run R&D last click when they shouldn't have. So I think losing Iqua is actually pretty big for HB, because this is one of the agendas that sees play in every HB deck. And I don't know what's going to take that slot. I think Elevation will have a 4-2 and a 5-3 for each faction. I'm assuming a 3-2 and a 5-3 would be my guess. Salvo Gaming, here we come. Yeah, kind of. They're printing Luminal as a 3x. Lemon 1 was too swinging. Yeah, I know. And give it more clicks or whatever. Yeah, that seems really, really important. Hyperloop leaving. This card sees niche play. Mind you, does see play in some Thule decks, but obviously Sports Metal is also rotating. But Hyperloop rotating at the same time Sports Metal rotating, at least we won't feel that too bad. Malia going matters a bit for HB decks, but more so for asset spam outside of HB, because this is just like a very, very powerful one influence tech card that can just blow up a lot of things, whether it's for kill combos or just shut off ban harm. Malia is really important. I feel like you see it less in HB than anywhere else. Maryland's going. That's sad. I have no doubt we'll see another campaign or two. We have been seeing things like Antil and things taking the slot. I think there's a chance if Maryland goes, we'll just see Nico in that slot. And I think there's a big difference between Maryland and Nico. And the same way there's a big difference between Rashida and Antil, which is you have to ice it. You're generally going to be icing your Nikos. Maryland, you don't have to ice because it'll just keep coming back. And so 3 trash cost also is a bit. This card is just really fun and interesting. I feel like I've seen a lot of people shuffle Marylands when they shouldn't. And I love that you can have a card that people play poorly sometimes, but yeah, gonna miss that. We're gonna see something else in that slot for sure. Hey Pat, one thing I want to try with measured response was to play a public trail to make them pay 8 to avoid a tag. Pat, the thing is, like, it's so hard to do that, because if they pay 8 to remove the tag, right, to avoid the tag, they're only doing that if they have 3 cards in hand. So like, I guess you could do it, but I'd rather have them to spend 2 cards than, right? Like, they have to do the math. Do you have end of line public trail? It's funny. How you doing? No 2-1 fast advance option. You do have a 2-1. It's El of a Gao, but then your deck is running like 12 agendas, and that can be a bit hard, especially because HB is a bit soft on central sometimes. MC austerity policy. This one goes. This actually has seen a consistent amount of play, especially at Worlds this year. It is a card that when it came out, people were really upset. These are the sort of cards that corporations just need to have access to that are slightly busted, right? Like, not only is it annoying because you lose clicks, but it is a win condition. I think Mirror Morph is getting some good operations to work with so far from what we've seen, but this is one of the best Mirror Morph cards. And for as excited as I am for top-down solutions, losing MC austerity policy is going to be the worst thing for Mirror Morph that we could have guessed. Honestly, losing this really doesn't make me excited to play Mirror Morph because this card's very, very strong. Mind you, we saw in Asa, we see it in Thule. This card is just super flexible for so many reasons. It stops deep dives, it slows down runners. It works well with Ikwa, MIC, Managarm. This is a very, very, very big card hole in HB. Ice. Oh man, Magnet's leaving? Fuck, wait, Magnet is leaving? That sucks. That's really bad. I feel like we need an effect like this. Shit. I know we've seen Fly Swatter. I kind of wish Kesselroyd also just like ate everything like a black hole that it is, but that honestly does suck. A 3-cost code gate. Mind you, this card is undercosted. If you use Metropole Grid math, this card is undercosted. And what it does though, the face check is so like just fine that this card is just very, 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 very good. We're losing almost every Byroid. If I'm not mistaken, rotation leaves us with 3 Byroids. It leaves us with Brawn, Buff Shark, and Onsell. I think that is kind of rough. Byroids are really cool. Whether we see more Byroid support, I imagine we will. I'm not sure if NSG is all into Byroids. They have shown cool new Byroid looking things like the top-down guys with all the arms. Hey, Cat. But we're losing like Eli and Ravana, which means like those are very, very good anchor 3-cost cheap Byroids. It looks like all we're left with is very expensive Byroids. But maybe that's the case. Oh, and Tier. Yeah, good shout out. And Tier. Rototurret going. That's fine. It's about time. And none of this ice matters. There's some really, really, really bad HB ice. I think what scares me too, to some extent, is like the HB ice suite gets really strange with rotation. Like this doesn't show us what's left, but what's left is we have Brawn and Onsell, which are like hyper cracked. We still have Drafter forever. And it's going to be really hard to make Drafter not the most playable card in HB of all time. Like I don't think Drafter's going to go anywhere anytime soon. And that's kind of like, Drafter's cool. But the problem is like one of the cycles is entirely like Harmonix ice, and that does not open up design space for a lot of HB decks. We're losing Gatekeeper, which is probably the biggest ice we're losing, honestly, right here. Losing Gatekeeper is a problem. This is one of the best HB ice. It's also very interesting ice. I like Gatekeeper a heck of a lot. Onsell sucks. Who would make such a card? But yeah, I think the HB ice suite is getting stranger. We still have Hagen, which is okay. Yeah. AOT is gone too. You can't HB without Byroids. They put the B in HB. Yeah, I guess they do. MIC is good. Yeah, MIC is good for sure. But like, it feels like all the good HB ice is like Drafter and then 6-costers, which I don't know if that is gonna be great. I just feel like it's the sort of thing where, you know, like, you know, the metronome swinging between like Harmonix and then like playable HB ice is pretty rough. The same way like all this pool of next ice doesn't see a lot of play. A lot of really bad HB ice. Loki. That's an interesting card. I'm happy it's gone. All right. Identities. Some of these identities are massive. Asa Group, very, very good. Gonna miss the heck out of it. Very fun, very flexible, very interesting. Sports Metal, very similar, very fun, very interesting. Architects Tomorrow, I don't care about you. I'm glad you're gone. But the amount of like Byroids rotating is just massive. Archive Memories, this is banned. This is gone. Biotic Labor is getting reprinted. We're going to shout out cards that really do matter. I do think Fast Break is a card that's seeing some amount of play. It is for sure. I don't know if we're going to see an identity that really encourages you to play like Sports Metal, where you play as a bunch of small agendas. If that was the case, you would like Fast Break, but this rotating it's fine. Decision to print no playable HB cards for several cycles in a row is definitely reaping. Yes. And shout out, that is actually a thing. It's like HB was the best faction for a long time. And so like when we had, is this a set in here? I don't think it's a set in here, but like that reaping is coming. Is that we had a booster pack, right? For Borealis. And the booster pack was meant to be like, here's some early cards from the set, and everybody got something fun and interesting. Like Light the Fire, very cool, interesting card. Revolver, very cool. Deep Dive, absurdly cool. Ozia, fantastic. Vlad Grid's going to get even better. Anemone, super important. And we gave Hakarl. And that's because HB didn't need help. And so it feels like for the last couple of years, HB hasn't been getting a lot of hyper strong cards. And if that's the case now, the majority of HB card pool is not hyper strong cards. I am kind of scared about that. Oh yeah, I missed Riot Suppression. Yeah, Riot Suppression is worth saying something about. That's for sure. Excuse me. Yeah, Riot Suppression does see play in Thule. What is Rotom going to play now? I don't know. Rotom has been playing like Ag Infusion, hasn't he? Like, I'm sure he'll make PD work. Maybe we'll get more cards for it, but yeah. Dude hasn't got to learn a new Corpse Assassin Gateway. Balatro. Restore. This card is much better than Mana Play it sees. It looks like I'm going to die on that hill. I think Restore into Hollow Man is cracked. I think this card is massively unfair. I think Restore is just a very, very good card. I don't know why it doesn't see play. Giordano leaving, also fine. Very frustrating, but a lot of the small agenda cards are leaving the format too. I don't like you. I don't like you. Good that you're gone. I don't like you. Good that you're gone. And then we get to the other faction cards. So like, it doesn't seem that big. I think HB losing 2 massive identities, losing some very playable ice, like that is going to catch up with it. It doesn't seem huge, but I do think a lot of the card pool that's left over is like kind of uneven on the HB side. Jai will retire beside his beloved ice. No, Zeke, there's a lot of stuff that Jai will play. To be fair, PD still the strongest HB card, Anoetic Void. I honestly don't know if Anoetic Void is stronger than Managarm. It's very, very good, but it's like somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's super, super obvious. Yeah, Magnet, like losing Magnet, like really, really does matter. I know that we're going to get the other thing that purges virus counters, but Magnet does a lot more. All right, obviously none of this matters. Well, he can't play HB Snare. HB decks playing these cards. Don't matter. Any of these cards don't matter for HB. Okay. We're also left with weird things like how playable is fully operational in a world without ISA group, right? Like even some of the best cards that are left over sometimes might not have a home. I don't think any of this matters. No, none of this matters. Wraparound going matters for everyone a bit. Not so much HB, it doesn't seem. Yeah. Reverse accounts is actually nice in Mirror Morph. I mean, I hear you. I haven't done it. I've actually enjoyed a lot more the like Calvin Bailey and Nano Etching and all the other one I don't know the name of. Arella Salvatore kind of matters for some HB fast decks. I have enjoyed in sponsorship. This card, like, it's just a really fun card. Arella is like such a great card that just built all these weird archetypes out of nowhere. What else matters here? Not much. Fully op is hedge fund from 1 card into PD. It's fine, to be honest. Pretty wide EL, I think. It's nice that you get some flexibility. You can draw cards, but leaving boarding control. Boarding control does matter. Some of the PD decks do play boarding control. It's not all the time. A lot of times you'll see one of boarding control sneaking in. Boarding control leaving obviously hurts Weyland a bit more, but if you want to play scoring HB, like this is a good scoring card. How many cards have we seen that like, how many corp cards have we seen actually? I don't think we've seen that many scoring cards so far. Audacity, sports medal really matters. Some ASIC groups will also play this just to go a bit faster. The easiest way to score out your what you called your Stegodon on turn 1. Who cares? But yeah, this card technically matters, but the HBs that play this leave. That's mostly it, honestly. Rashida obviously matters. NGO front doesn't really. Subliminal matters actually a lot for a Mirror Morph to some extent. I'd argue that Subliminal is not always worth a slot, but in Mirror Morph, when you want to do like Wage Workers combos, or outside of Mirror Morph, if you want to do Wage Workers combos, Subliminal does kind of matter. Subliminal hurts Weyland way more, I feel like, and Jinteki, but it is a thing. Most of what has been seen on NRB now to check against. Oh, very cool. Yeah, right. Open forum matters for Epiphany. Yeah, but we're talking about HB. Yeah, so what have we seen before on the corp side? Top-down solutions. This can give you scoring windows. I do think we're going to see this more for assets, which is like, okay, so keep that in mind. Shylendra, we have to come back to this. I do think the Weyland Ice situation, we're missing Kesselroyd here. I'm not sure why. And then Fly Swatter. And so Makoto Langi Grid is also another card that HB can enjoy. I do think it's competing with the other grid, and the other grid might be a bit better, but you can always play more grids in your deck. Yeah, HB is like kind of rough. I think the stuff that you're left with, like maybe we should do the opposite, where we should just look at the sets and see what we're left with. But it seems a bit uneven. And that's because if we look at Liberation and Borealis HB, like we'll see how many of these cards see a lot of play, right? Like Lightning has definitely failed. Wage Workers is cracked for sure. I do think that Warm Reception prototype combos are going to be a huge part of the new meta. I feel like if we're losing all our ways to trash assets, these assets are just absolute snowballs. And that is potentially the best obvious thing HB has is Warm Reception Prototype Wage Workers, and you play all the W's and smash them on the table. Stegodon, I hope not. Salvo Testing works in certain deck lists. MIC is cracked, that's for sure. Ablative is cracked. These 3 cards haven't seen a lot of play. Jaguar's seeing a bit more play, but your deck has to be around it. Greasing is totally fine. And if tags start to be more relevant, right? Like if we get a proper account siphon with a tag attached to it, this might matter. And Vovo just seems so underwhelming now, unfortunately, particularly in a world without Jinda, particularly in a world with Métropole and Geet Grid, but still kind of fine. There's a day the active policing is better. I think without the Iqua project is a bit worse. And Hospitality, I don't know if it'll see play. Brasilia also doesn't do it. I think it might be a bit more narrow here because we see all the like core damage stuff. Elvigao is fine. This is technically Biroid support, but we're lacking a lot of Biroids. Refuge campaign, I don't think is ever going to be good. And then all of this harmonic stuff doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Big Deal is still pretty good. This is all super niche. So like the amount of playable HB cards is like very narrow. It seems relatively narrow for at least if you're not playing core damage. Love the Jag. Yeah, Jag is fun. Jag is definitely fun. Kesselroy, known issue in the next set uploaded. Also the nano management. Oh, very, very cool. Rage quitting Netrunner if they reprint Siphon. They've said that they will, Phil. They said on a Neon Static podcast. I also was confused because the standard ban list article says like without a diversion, but I'm like pretty sure they've said cleanly on a podcast that there will be an account Siphon. So I'm not sure what I'm missing. That's HP. I'm scared. I'm kind of scared. I wonder if we see a new harmonic in elevation. I would say 0%. It has to be like really, really specific, right? Like the card has to be playable without anything else, because that's the big thing that comes with the core set is that elevation plus system gateway. So many people are going to play it. So if you get a card that has like very little to no text or has to be good enough on its own, but then gets better with other harmonics, like maybe that's a way for you to encourage people to pick up an old set. But like, it's also going to be strange too, because it's an evergreen set. And at some point, many, many years down the line, harmonics will rotate. Straight reprint of account siphon or bust. I wouldn't go that far. I feel like 15 credits is a bit much, especially for system gateway, but let's go. Account siphon, but drains 6 credits because Crim needs it. Just takes their money. It's your money. 17 tags. Anywho, that's HP. It looks like most other corps. I don't think it's as bad. I feel like every corp has a big problem with rotation. So obviously the elevation designers have some way to understand that and fix that. And I'm assuming they will. HB, okay, we'll see. Rapa Nui blog just dropped. Oh, cool. I don't know the name of the blog offhand though. It's a real rug pull coming. Lower the power of the Netrunner that reprint one of the strongest cards ever. Yeah, that is like kind of what's suggested here. And I've heard a lot of people responding to the standard ban list thing saying like lowering the power level of the format is something that some people are quite excited about. And I totally get it. Lowering the power level makes sense. And there's a chance that's the case. If it just becomes slightly slower, kind of like how startup is now, a lot of people will appreciate that. And I think that's a cool thing to see. The problem is where like, I don't know how much lower the power level is going to be of standard Shaper decks or Anarch decks. Obviously the ban list is going to address that and that's the intention, but there's a chance that it'll need another ban list, but everything is like that. We need to ban all of the other runner cards so that we can reprint the great Haymaker ever. I've done the maths right. Corps are getting more cards than runner in elevation. Oh, but they always do because there's just more corp identities or corp factions, excuse me. On Nano, it's not Bass depicted on the card. The flavor text is coincidence. Oh, no way. More clicking for credits? Clicking for credits is not the worst thing. I'll be clear. For someone who's played a bit of ONR, like clicking for credits isn't awful. It's definitely a change of pace, but the games aren't slower. The games are actually kind of faster. It's just what you do on the macro level is a bit slower. It's a bit of a cursed sentence, but the idea is like, oh, my turn is I'm going to install this, I'm going to use this, I'm going to hit this, and then I'll click for a credit. Like, it's fine. It's not as bad as it might sound. Okay, this is the thing I'm scared about. And Neon Static shouted this out in their last podcast. The Métropole Grid math of what an ice costs for it to be a fair ice is generally, what does this cost to be broken with Mayfly? Okay, so to show you a very good example is Palisade. Now, Palisade has 2 modes, a 2 strength and 4 strength, and it turns out it is perfectly balanced at 3 strength. So the res cost should be equal to basically strength plus subroutine minus 1. Now, extra text is usually worth +1, and if it doesn't end the run, it's usually worth -1. And in the history of the game, just a lot of the cards seem to be balanced around that idea. So for instance, Palisade, what does it cost to break for Mayfly? It costs 1, 2, 3, -1 is 2. So if this is on a central server, you are overpaying. You're paying 3 for what should be a 2 cost budgeted ice. However, when this is on a remote server, it's 4 strength. So 4 plus 1 minus 1 is 5 minus 1 is 4, but you pay 3 for it. And this is, the basis of the design of this card is that it is undercosted on the remote server where it wants to be, but overcosted on the central server. Such is the simple Métropole Grid breaking math. And for most ice in the format, I've actually done a table where I've gone through every ice in standard that lines up. Now, there's certain cards that are outliers, and then there's certain cards where the math is different because it doesn't end the run, because the face check is bad. Generally, massive net damage is worth +1. Trash a program subroutine are usually worth +1, +2, but overall, it works for most cards. This one doesn't work. This one's really, really bad. This one should be about 5, 6, 7, 8. Minus 1 is 7. So this technically a 5 strength 3 subroutine ice should about cost 7. Now it doesn't end the run, so it should be about cost 6. And then it also has additional text. So additional text usually increases the cost of a card by 1. This card should cost somewhere between 6 and 7. Now when this came out, a lot of people said, myself included, I don't think this is a good ice. Now this D1 net damage actually starts to matter a bit more when we have measured response. So we actually have a kill combo. The runner loses 2. These also really mattered for measured response. This first subroutine might not matter, but you can always advance this. And then once this is advanced, even if you spend no money on this, this will become a nightmare scenario. I am beginning to get more scared about this. What I'm also beginning to get scared about is I don't know the numbers, but like quick calculations, right? So there's 82 cards in the set, if I'm not mistaken. If we divide that by 7, that says that each faction should have about 10 cards, maybe 10 to 9 cards, because there's neutral cards, okay? Congratulations to NSG for having the absolute victory by being already almost sold out in Worlds 2025. Yeah, they are. Honestly, that's kind of upsetting, I think, for some people who didn't get tickets, but please get on the wait list. The tickets are sold out just about. Some of the locals in Scotland are panicking that they might not be able to attend Worlds because of how fast tickets sold. Yes. I know I try to be very clear, buy your tickets sooner than later. They turned out that they sold out nearly all of them. And now they have some tickets reserved because they had a lot of volunteers, and not all volunteers will be unfortunately accepted. And then those volunteers who didn't buy a ticket because they wanted to apply for volunteers should not be punished. So it looks like currently the World's tickets are sold out to some extent, but they'll be opening more tickets in the future. We've seen some of the Weyland ice. So the question is, how much ice do you expect every faction to get? My guess is 3 or 4. I think that makes sense. Like, okay, say that it's 10 cards per faction. If we have 1 identity or 2 identities, I don't know. So say that's 1 to 2 slots, 1 slot. And then say that there is 2 agendas, so that's 3 slots. Say that there is an asset, 4 slot. Say there's 2 operations, 5, 6. Say there's an upgrade, 7. So that means there's probably not more than 3 ice for every faction. That kind of lines up with System Gateway. System Gateway, I believe, had 2 ice for every faction. Some factions, I think, had a 3rd ice. But that means on average, we're expecting every faction to have about 3 ice. If that's the case, we know the Weyland ice. It's Kesselroyd, which I don't have any good things to say about. Shylendra, which I'm also very nervous about because it's both Weyland Glacier Grinder and also very undercosted for what it does. And we have a 14 cost ice. I am very scared about the state of Weyland. That's all I'm going to say. The state of Weyland seems terrifying for me going into the new set. There's no Weyland upgrade. We know this because of a card number. Okay, so maybe there's a 4th ice. I don't know. Jeff is saying, I'm definitely freaking out a bit about World Sellout. We're trying to figure out how many more tickets we can open up. Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be a demand for more tickets. Hopefully it works out well, Jeff. I don't know. Again, we don't know much about the big lizard, besides that it has an end around on it and a 6 strength, but it costs 14. I'm assuming you don't pay 14 for it. I'm imagining it has some archer-like text. But yeah, oh boy. Something is rotten in the state of Weyland. Andre, probably. I am very, very scared for Weyland. I do not feel like Kesselroyd Shylendra 14 cost ice is an ice suite you want in core set. As Weyland and HB player is an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, it is. I'm very excited to see HB ice. That's for sure. Maybe the 14 cost is space ice with seeing how the res cost works. If that's the case, honestly, I don't even know if that's the best scenario. If it is like a space ice that gets cheaper with advancements, that means we're going to run into more advanceable ice log, which I'm definitely against. Cost 10 less to res if you forfeit an agenda. I think that's fair. I think costing half cost would make sense. Costing a certain amount if you forfeit an agenda based off of what agenda you forfeit could also make sense. It also could just be like straight up Tithonium, that it is free if you forfeit an agenda, but in theory, you know, like you can res it for 14 if you want to. But I'm assuming it is an archer thing. So I'm imagining forfeiting agendas will matter because that is a very Weyland thing. Still think the res cost will be reduced by your amount of installed dice. Yeah, it could be any of that sort of stuff, but What is the Weyland Gateway ice compared with those? Weyland Gateway has Ballista and Pharos, which are both very good in Gateway. Pharos is actually, for what it's worth, I don't like Ballista, but Pharos is very good in Gateway. Where are we? We're here. Yeah, that's it. That's all you have. And in Gateway, mind you, Ballista is okay. It's fine. The 4-strength Sentry is kind of annoying for almost all the breakers, but it's very close to like Brawn. I'd rather just play Brawn, and Pharos is one of the best ice in Gateway. It's also very big, so you have a 7 cost, you have a 5 cost, you have a 14 cost, you have a 4 cost, and it seems like, what is a 3 cost? So like you don't have the Ice Wall type slot. Maybe Kesselred is 2 to res. Maybe it's 3 to res. I'm not sure. I think they banned Tithonium specifically because it threw off calculations too much to be resable at 0. Not only that, Spark, is that we lost Paperclip, and because Arasana was coming up. And Tithonium has anti-Arasana text on it. So it was going to cause criminals to get blown out of nowhere, have no recursion. It's going to let Arasana not do the thing. So it's very hard to play around a nice. It can be res for 0. For sure. Kesselred is 2. Thank you. I agree with you. The Lizard being advanceable is a tonal clash with the normal themes of advanceable ice. Yes, I don't think advancing Lizard makes sense for what it's worth. I think advancing Construct makes sense. Advancing Lighthouse makes sense. Advancing the Shylendra makes sense. I don't think advancing a Lizard makes a lot of sense. At least for the way NSG has done advanceable ice in Weyland. It's usually about building buildings. I don't know. I'm scared as Weyland. Unbanned Kayambe Grid. I wonder if there's any cards we could consider getting unbanned. I think DreamNet was the one unbanned I think could have happened here, but I think you had to ban Hosh. All right. My voice is not holding out. I think we might just call it here today. I feel like there's some things that we need to plug. So I'll get some links in the description. I heard QTM has up a podcast, Rapanui's blog, stuff like that for sure. But we might just call it here. I definitely wanted to play this. We're probably going to just push that can, kick that can down the road onto Thursday. That's why the stream was named the way it is. But yeah, I probably should not keep streaming like this because my voice is just not holding up. And we've already been talking for like 2.5 hours straight. Dragon's Horde advancing makes sense with that logic. I mean, I guess. It just doesn't feel like they could have just built like the Horde where you hoard coins. Right? I don't know. Maybe. Thanks for stream. Get some rest. Thank you, Izzy. I'll have some tea. There's a bunch of stuff that went on this weekend, mind you. We didn't count ABR. There's some wild tournaments going on. Some really impressive deck lists that are doing well at tournaments. Shout out to like Persephone decks are popping off. Shout out to like Rongi Doge had a really good final. Not Rongi Doge, excuse me. You know what I mean. Feel better. Thank you. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that recapped this weekend. Looks like there's no scoops today, mind you. If you want to tune on Jeff's, I'll be in the chat. It is, do I have it here? Yeah, it's going to be daily casts. So we're going to be recapping a bunch of the spoiled cards already. These are always an absolute treat. So we'll have a link for that in the description. Thanks so much for hanging out. Mind you, the stream is, and well, this channel is supported on Patreon. If you want to find any, if you want to support the channel at all, you can find a link in the description. Any amount of support is incredibly appreciated. And all these names here and the Daily Cast patrons allow me to keep the lights on, to do the thing that we do. Take off Tuesdays and just stream all day. That is not something that is that easy to do all the time. Solemn Storm around 8 hours to win our district. Yo, let's go Solemn. Also, if you just want to like the video, the stream, that helps a heck of a lot. That's for sure. I know we talked about this in the last video with the SBL that went up yesterday. You can go find that out if you want to hear more thoughts about it. But we will be doing a week-long stream, largely. So the set doesn't come out on Monday like it did for the last set. It comes out on Thursday. So Thursday, either Pat and I will be here playing in person. I'm not sure if Pat will get cards on time. I'm not sure if I will get cards on time. We might have to go proxy. If NSG can get cards on time here, I'd be very excited. But we might just have to go to the printer and print out some cards on Thursday. And we're looking to hang out on Thursday if Pat can get the day off and just stream through the afternoon and play Paper Netrunner as soon as the set is out. Otherwise, from that, we'll be streaming, I believe, every day to some extent, whether it's online or in Paper. That'll be happening the upcoming week, and so that's in a couple weeks. We also do have spoilers. I can't tell you when, but spoilers, community spoilers is usually the back half of NSG spoilers. So we're currently still in NSG spoilers, so it's going to be a while for that. I'll let you know more when we can know more. Feel better soon. Thank you. Any Marvel Crash Space videos coming? Yeah, there's one tomorrow morning. I should shut this out enough more. Marvel Crash Space, sorry, the Crash Space is the alt channel I've been running in the background, and it hasn't taken too much time, which is nice. It's mostly been Marvel Champions content, which if you enjoy Marvel Champions or you know someone who enjoys Marvel Champions, if you could forward that to them, because I haven't been advertising this. We have another video coming up tomorrow morning where we finish our Nightcrawler aggression against Age of Apocalypse, which have been really fun. We've been live streaming every Friday. Usually it's Marvel Champions. We'll probably do the same thing this Friday as long as we're feeling okay. I imagine we will. So we did a stream on Friday. Marvel Champions fans have been eating good. Yeah, it's been some good stuff here. And this has been really fun. I just turn the camera on and record, and it takes me like an hour to edit. So it's not that bad at all. Anyways, that stuff is being linked in the description if you do enjoy some Marvel Champions, like I know I do. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll be playing Ghost Meets deck list of the week. We'll try and play that HB deck as well. Obviously, there's like a lot of spoilers and stuff to catch up on, but I'm going to rest my voice, that's for sure. Thanks so much for hanging out. See you at Daily Cast and all the other great stuff that is going on. And we'll be back in a couple days. Take care, y'all.